Chapter 466. Tang Zheng was at his wit's end, and Qin Batian was powerless to stop him, so he anxiously said, "Tang Zheng, what do we do now? If Miss Yi loses, that would be terrible." Tang Zheng wanted to shout to stop him, but it was of no use. Moreover, this would only distract Yi Dingdang, so the only thing he could do now was to hope for a miracle to happen. Will there be a miracle? The blade light was like a waterfall, as if silver from the 9 heavens was pouring down in torrents, drawing out a streak of white light as it struck towards Yi Dingdang's head like lightning. Ding! A metallic sound rang out. Yi Dingdang's sword had appeared out of nowhere and blocked the opponent's large blade, causing sparks to fly. Song Hanjun frowned slightly. The blade retracted like a spring, but the blade did not retract too much, and then attacked again with the force of a thunderbolt. Between retracting and attacking, it was extremely fast. Yi Dingdang clenched her teeth, her delicate cheeks flushed red, but there was no fear in her eyes, only determination. Shwa! Her long sword turned around, narrowly blocking the large blade. The angle was extremely crafty, and it came and went like a ghost. 2 moves. Yi Dingdang finally blurted out 3 words, while Song Hanjuan's face darkened, as black as the sky before the storm. What's going on? Such crafty moves were blocked by this little girl. Oof! Who knows what that old fox Yi Xuanji taught her to have such a miraculous effect. However, her strength is still too weak, wanting to last 10 moves. Dream on. Song Hanjuan's heart hardened, and with a low roar, his hands flew, and the blade light followed like a shadow, following closely behind. Yi Dingdang did not even dare to breathe loudly, only staring at the large blade that was moving like lightning. She repeatedly raised the sword in her hand, either flicking, thrusting, or lifting. A miracle happened. Her movements were not as smooth as flowing water. However, that ordinary-looking longsword in her hand actually erupted with a strange power. Streaks of sword light streaked across the air. Ping, 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 ping. Not a single blade struck Yi Dingdang's body. Among them, the most dangerous slash had already arrived in front of Yi Dingdang's forehead, but that sword had mysteriously appeared and disappeared to block this attack. It was extremely dangerous. 7 moves. Yi Dingdang's eyes exploded with a resplendent light as her confidence soared. In reality, she was only relying on a single breath of air and passion to make this bet. This was because she understood that this was the only way to force Tang Zheng to agree. She would then be able to find a sliver of a chance to let Tang Zheng escape. If not, with just Qin Batian, none of them would be able to gain any benefits today. Although it was more strenuous for her to use the wind-chasing swordsmanship, the power of the wind-chasing swordsmanship still erupted. Although the wind-chasing swordsmanship did not require inner strength or zhenqi to control, it relied on the human body's muscles and strength to achieve many unimaginable reactions. This was even more demanding on the human body, so when one was not familiar with the swordsmanship, it would be very challenging to execute. Yi Dingdang had passed the test. She had not fully displayed the power of the wind-chasing swordsmanship, but she had already received 7 moves from Song Hanjun. With victory in sight, Yi Dingdang clenched her teeth even tighter. She was in high spirits and her eyes were filled with determination. The others were dumbfounded by this scene. Song Yu and Chu Xiaofeng were dumbfounded, their mouths stuffed with a duck egg. How is this possible? Did he go easy on her? This guess was immediately denied. Song Hanjun was not such a person. Furthermore, winning this bet would greatly benefit his son, so he would not joke about Song Yu's future. Qin Batian was a Xiantian realm expert, so his eyesight was not ordinary. He stared at Yi Dingdang thoughtfully and thought to himself, is this swordsmanship from the Ye family? How come I've never heard of it before? This swordsmanship is definitely not simple. A large family truly has a deep foundation. Tang Zheng's eyes narrowed into slits. He had already determined that the wind-chasing swordsmanship was extraordinary, but he did not expect it to be so miraculous. If it was Yi Dingdang's true strength, she would definitely be defeated within 5 moves. But with the wind-chasing swordsmanship, she had actually withstood 7 moves without showing any signs of weakness. This kind of expert was simply too terrifying. The things in Chi Yu's heart are indeed treasures. If I could take out all the good things in it, it would be an enormous treasure. Tang Jing thought to himself. What swordsmanship is this? Song Hanjun had also noticed some clues. He could be considered knowledgeable, but he had never seen or heard of this swordsmanship before. If it was a swordsmanship from the Ye family, then he had never heard of it. If the Ye family had such a powerful swordsmanship, then everyone would have known about it. Wind-chasing swordsmanship. Yi Dingdong's face flashed with pride as the corners of her lips curled up. Wind-chasing swordsmanship? Song Hanjun was certain that he had never heard of this name before. Who taught you? Yi Dingdong's brows jumped as she disdainfully said, Why should I tell you? Song Hanjun flew into a rage. Since you still want to show off, then I won't be polite. Who told you to be polite? Yi Dingdang retorted. Was Song Hanjun being polite? Of course not. He wished that he could defeat Yi Dingdang in one move. That way, he would truly be mighty. The Song family's reputation would also surpass the Ye family's. But things did not go as he wished. He used all of his strength, but it was all for naught. Humph, I don't believe this. Song Hanjuan's eyes released a terrifying light as he roared, Watch my blade. The air in all directions was completely stirred up by this move. The wind rose and the clouds surged. There was a sudden flash of wind and thunder, as if a bolt of lightning was descending. The power of this move had not yet been used up. The other two moves came one after another. The power of these three moves overlapped as they attacked Yi Dingdang with a force that could topple mountains and overturn seas. Yi Dingdang's face was a bit pale, but she did not retreat an inch. Relying on the 3-foot-long sword in her hand, she continuously attacked. Every move was fast, ruthless, and accurate. Sparks flew everywhere as the sound of air exploding rang out from all directions. The stones embedded in the ground broke free from the bindings of the earth and flew up into the air, sending sand and stones flying. Yi Dingdang was in the center of the storm, but she did not move at all. She was like a sea-stabilizing needle. Move after move, her tension and relaxation were measured. She had the demeanor of an expert. Poof! Spitting out a mouthful of blood, Yi Dingdong's face became deathly pale. But her legs seemed to have grown roots as they pierced into the ground and did not move an inch. Everything returned to calmness. Yi Dingdong's mouth gradually rippled. She had succeeded. A miracle had really happened. In a situation that everyone thought was impossible, she had actually withstood 10 moves. Tang Jing had been saved. You lost. Her red lips slightly opened as Yi Dingdang faintly spat out these 3 words. She let out a sigh of relief in her heart as she revealed a relieved expression. Song Hanjuan's eyes widened in anger as he roared in disbelief, Impossible! The impossible had become possible. This was a miracle. Yi Dingdang had created a miracle. She had not only relied on the wind-chasing sword art, but more importantly, her courage and her affection for Tang Jing. All of these added together to support her. Impossible! This is absolutely impossible. How could I not defeat you in 10 moves? Song Hanjun was furious as his eyes burned with anger. Suddenly, an ominous glint appeared in his eyes. His figure flashed as he charged towards Yi Dingdang. His thick broadsword slashed towards Yi Dingdang. Yi Dingdang had relied on her astonishing willpower to withstand these 10 moves. Once the 11th move was used, she would definitely lose. She raised the 3-foot-long sword, but the power was completely different from before. Kacha! The sword broke and the thick blade struck Yi Dingdang's chest. The sound of bones breaking suddenly rang out as a large mouthful of blood spurted out from Yi Dingdang's mouth. She was like a kite with a broken string as she flew backwards. No one had expected Song Hanjun to shamelessly make a move after losing the bet. The entire hall was shocked. Ding dang! Tang Jing rushed out. His steps were a bit shaky, but he still managed to catch Yi Dingdang before she hit the ground. He staggered back a few steps before stopping. However, he did not care about himself as he impatiently asked, Ding, how are you? Yi Dingdang opened her eyes and smiled faintly. She stared at Tang Jing, her eyes filled with satisfaction and longing. She stammered, I did my best. A stream of hot tears rushed into Tang Jing's eyes. His voice was a bit choked as he hurriedly nodded and said, I know. You did very well. You won the bet and saved me. In the past, it was always you who saved me from danger. This time, I finally saved you. Yi Dingdang said with a smile, but her eyelids quickly closed. Tang Jing turned pale with fright. He hurriedly shook her and shouted, Ding, you can't sleep. You have to hold on. I'm so tired. I want to sleep. Yi Dingdang murmured as if she was sleep-talking. Your embrace is so warm. I want to lie in your embrace forever. I told you to lie down. Don't sleep. You can lie down for as long as you want. Tang Zheng was really flustered. He was out of his wits. Originally, victory was in sight, but after a series of twists and turns, it turned out like this. No matter how much he calculated, he did not expect this. Then a lie down, for a long time. Yi Dingdang closed her eyes. Tang Jing seemed to have gone crazy. His eyes were bloodshot as he roared, Ding, you can't die. You haven't beaten me yet. Didn't we make a bet? You have to beat me and then I have to admit in front of everyone that you're better than me. You haven't done this yet. Nothing can happen to you. Tears welled up in his eyes. The heavens seemed to sense his sorrow. A bolt of lightning suddenly lit up in the dark clouds. Then, the sky was completely filled with lightning. It was as if the lightning wanted to tear the sky apart. Boom! The thunder rumbled and shook the world. The earth seemed to tremble. The majestic rain fell from the sky, as if the heavens were crying. Tang Zheng was instantly drenched like a drowned rat. The rain and tears mixed together, and the salty taste slipped into his mouth and covered his eyes. Ah! Suddenly he let out a long howl. His howl contained endless anger and grief. He suddenly stood up with Yi Dingdang in his arms. Chapter 467. When Song Hanjun saw the expression in Tang Zheng's eyes, his heart pounded wildly as a sense of fear welled up in his heart. How can this be? How can I be afraid of him? Right now, he's just an ant waiting for me to trample on. How can I be afraid of him? Song Hanjun hurriedly consoled himself. But his heart was still unsettled. This won't do. If anything happens to Yi Dingdang, Tang Zheng will definitely seek revenge on me. This is too troublesome. Since I've already injured Yi Dingdang, then I'll go all the way and kill everyone here. That way no one will know about this matter. Song Hanjun gnashed his teeth as he thought to himself. Tang Zheng glared at Song Hanjun, his eyes spitting fire. Song Hanjun, you're too despicable. You've clearly lost the bet, but you still want to act. I swear I won't let you off. If anything happens to Dingdang, I'll definitely use your life as a sacrifice to Dingdang. When Song Hanjun heard this, the killing intent in his eyes grew even more intense. Qin Batin also regained his senses as he roared with deep hatred. Song Hanjun, to think that you're a member of the Song family. You can't even afford to lose, and even despicably deal with a member of the younger generation. Truly despicable. Everyone under the heavens will look down on you. Song Hanjun's face turned ashen. Nonsense. Who I am is not for you to judge. Chu Xiaofeng was originally overjoyed when he saw Yi Dingdang win the bet. But in the blink of an eye, Song Hanjun actually added another move in his rage, causing the situation to change completely. This change was definitely beneficial to him. Thus, he couldn't wait to say, Uncle Song, these people deserve to die. Keep up the good work and kill them all. This is the best solution. Song Ming glanced at Yi Dingdang, who was in Tang Zheng's embrace, and hurriedly said, Father, Xiaofeng's words are reasonable. Letting them go is the same as letting the tiger return to the mountain. There will be great trouble. Tang Zheng turned a deaf ear to their words and carried Yi Dingdang out of the room. Yi Dingdang was completely unconscious and needed immediate treatment. When Tang Zheng passed by Song Hanjun, killing intent burst out from Song Hanjun's eyes. With a flip of his hand, a saber light flashed and directly attacked Tang Zheng's vital points. Obviously, Song Hanjun had made up his mind to go back on his word and not abide by the terms of the bet. He was going to kill Tang Zheng without hesitation. Despicable stuff. Upon seeing this, Qin Batin was enraged. Like a ferocious tiger, his hands formed into claws as he pounced towards Song Hanjun. However, he was still some distance away from Song Hanjun, so there was no way he could save Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng was seriously injured and had no way to circulate his true qi to resist. However, he did not dodge as he carried Yi Dingdang. Instead, he acted as if he did not see it and walked away with large strides. Seeing that the saber was about to cleave his head into two, Song Hanjuan's face revealed a pleased expression. Song Yu and Chu Xiaofeng also revealed relieved expressions. However, when Song Yu looked at Yi Dingdang in Tang Zheng's arms, she still felt a little pity. She thought to herself, Yi Dingdang is so dead set on following Tang Zheng, how could she not know that her fate is already sealed? Now that she was about to die, it was her choice and her fate. Tang Zheng faced the saber head-on, but the tip of his foot lightly hooked onto the ground. A bright light suddenly flew up from the ground and blocked the saber. A hand firmly grasped the hilt of the sword. This was a broken sword, only half of the sword was left. This was Yi Dingdang's sword, but it was broken by Song Hanjun. However, the broken sword was still powerful. In Tang Zheng's hand, a new wave of vitality burst forth. The broken sword stabbed out again and again, seemingly light and without any power. However, a series of sounds of Dingdang's saber and sword clashing rang out incessantly. Song Hanjuan's saber was unable to get any closer to Tang Zheng. Swish! Suddenly, another sword stabbed out. This time, it was actually aimed at Song Hanjuan's chest from below, as if it wanted to split open Song Hanjuan's stomach. Song Hanjun hurriedly used his saber to block, but at this moment, Qin Batyan finally arrived. A pair of claws fiercely clawed at Song Hanjuan's chest. Song Hanjun bent his body backwards, wanting to avoid both Qin Baishan's claw and Tang Zheng's sword. The clothes on Song Hanjuan's chest were directly torn apart by Qin Baishan's claw. However, Qin Baishan's strength had already been exhausted, and he could only watch as his attack missed. Seeing that Tang Zheng's broken sword was also about to be exhausted, Song Hanjun heaved a sigh of relief. A disdainful smile appeared on his face. These two wanted to deal with him? Simply a fool's dream. If Tang Zheng's sword was a little longer, Song Hanjun would definitely have been pierced. However, the broken sword was already broken, and its power was greatly reduced. Song Ming and Chu Xiaofeng almost cheered. They understood that if Tang Zheng's attack missed, what awaited him would be Song Hanjuan's thunderous counterattack. Seeing that everything was already set in stone, some people were happy while others were sad. However, Tang Zheng definitely did not have these two emotions. In his heart, there was only a towering rage and surging killing intent. Suddenly, the broken sword that had already exhausted all its strength broke free from Tang Zheng's grasp and flew forward. All of this happened without any warning. No one had expected that this sword that was at the end of its road would actually shine with vitality, like a withered tree that had come back to life. The broken sword flew straight in, extremely swift and fierce. Song Hanjuan's eyes widened as he roared, and he quickly dodged backwards, but he was unable to dodge this swift and fierce sword. With a flash of sword light, it had already pierced his chest. Song Hanjun let out an earth-shattering scream as he staggered backwards, clutching his chest. Blood flowed out from the gaps between his fingers. Shockingly, there was a broken sword in his right chest. His complexion had already turned pale as he looked at Tang Zheng in shock and disbelief. He roared, "Impossible!" However, all of this was already the truth. Tang Zheng did not even look at him as he carried Yi Dingdang and walked past him. Meanwhile, Song Yu and Chu Xiaofeng looked at each other, their faces filled with fear. Seeing Tang Zheng walk over, they did not have the slightest bit of courage to stop him. Although everyone knew that Tang Zheng was already injured, his indomitable aura still made them not dare to underestimate him. Instead, a trace of fear appeared in their hearts. Tang Zheng did not look sideways as he carried Yi Dingdang and walked out of the courtyard. He did not continue to pursue and kill Song Hanjun, because he did not have the ability to. The series of attacks just now had already exhausted what little strength he had left. If he continued to fight, he would definitely reveal a flaw. Song Hanjun had taken this sword strike, but it did not hit any vital points. Only his lungs were pierced, and as long as he received treatment in time, his life would not be in danger. However, because of this strike, Qin Badian had once again become the most powerful expert present. Song Hanjun clutched his chest and already had thoughts of retreating. Seeing Tang Jing disappear into the rainy night, he did not have the courage to chase after him. Song Yu and Chu Xiaofeng finally woke up from their daze. Song Yu rushed to Song Hanjun and shouted with concern, "Father, how are you?" Song Hanjun gritted his teeth and said, "I won't die for the time being. This time I was careless. Let's go to the hospital." After which, he looked at Qin Badian and said, "Today's matter is not over." If Qin Badian wanted to kill the other party, it was not impossible. However, he did not have the determination to do so. Because he was not like Tang Jing, he had too many misgivings. He knew that he was not a match for the Song family. Unless there was no other choice, he definitely did not want to meet them with weapons and completely block all paths. Song Hanjun and the other two also left. Qin Badian stood there in a daze, the scene from before still reverberating in his mind. Tang Jing was covered in injuries, but he still managed to stab Song Hanjun. This was too inconceivable. Where's Tang Jing? Yi Dingdang is injured. In this rain, where could he have gone? He immediately chased after him. However, there was only a curtain of rain left in the world, and Tang Jing's figure was nowhere to be seen. Where did Tang Jing go? He hugged Yi Dingdang and began to run as if he had gone mad. He ran in the rain with the water blooming around his feet and the rain hitting his body over and over again. It was already the 12th lunar month of the winter. After being drenched by the rain, his body was bitterly cold. Fortunately, he and Yi Dingdang's physique was not bad. Otherwise, just this rain alone would have taken their lives. They finally arrived at the Ye family's courtyard house. Tang Jing's heart was about to jump out of his throat. His legs had already lost all feeling. The distance of running wasn't long, but it wasn't short either. He was so tired that his bones were about to fall apart. When he knocked on the Ye family's door, he gave the servants of the Ye family a big fright. Tang Jing was not a stranger, and had been here many times before. The other party had already recognized him, and even recognized Yi Dingdang in his arms. "Quickly call for people to save Dingdang." Tang Jing gasped for breath as he roared. The servants hurriedly led the two of them in. Someone had already gone to inform them. Not long later, a figure darted out from inside at lightning speed. "What happened to my daughter?" Feng Xinyang anxiously asked. Tang Jing's face was deathly pale. He was trembling and his teeth were chattering as he said, "Dingdang is seriously injured. Quickly save her." Feng Xinyang's face suddenly changed. She took her daughter from his arms and then rushed into the room. At this time, Yi Tanlei also rushed out. When he saw the battered and exhausted Tang Jing and his unconscious daughter, his face was also very ugly. Seeing that his wife had already carried his daughter to receive treatment, he hurriedly went in front of Tang Jing and asked, "What happened?" Song Hanjun went back on his word. He didn't keep his word and injured Dingdang. Tang Jing weakly said, "Song Hanjun." Yi Tianlei's eyes flashed with an ominous glint. He gritted his teeth hatefully. "This despicable person actually injured my daughter. I definitely won't let him off." "I already stabbed him," Tang Jing said. "You injured him?" Yi Tianlei was shocked, but immediately felt relieved. Chu Chongyang was defeated by Tang Jing, so it was not impossible for Song Hanjun to be injured by Tang Jing. But looking at Tang Jing's weak appearance, Yi Tianlei asked, "How are you?" "I'm fine." As soon as his voice fell, Tang Jing closed his eyes and softly fell down. He had exhausted all his strength and was physically and mentally exhausted. Finally he fell down. Yi Tianlei hurriedly supported him and shouted, "Tang Jing, what happened to you?" Seeing that he did not respond, he hurriedly carried him and rushed into the room. Chapter 468. The Ye family's mansion was in an uproar. When Yi Dingdang and Tang Jing were sent to their respective rooms, the others also came one after another. Even Yi Xuanji was alarmed. Seeing Yi Tianlei walk out, Yi Tianming could not wait and said, "Tianlei, why did you bring this person into the Ye family? Don't you know how much trouble he caused today?" Yi Meiyu curled her lips and echoed, "That's right, Are you trying to drag our Ye family into the fire pit? Yi Tianlei's face darkened, and he coldly snorted, could it be that I can just watch him die? Tang Zheng has nothing to do with the Ye family. What does his life and death have to do with the Ye family? Yi Tianming argued. You can do it, but I can't do such a thing. Yi Tianlei said angrily. Yi Xuanji's face darkened, and he shouted, stop arguing. For an outsider, the two of you are arguing. What kind of scandal is this? Are we going to let outsiders laugh at our Ye family? The two brothers immediately fell silent. How is he? Yi Xuanji asked. Tang Zheng is fine. He just fainted from exhaustion. He will be fine after resting for a while. Yi Tianlei said. Yi Xuanji nodded calmly. Have you figured out what happened? It's Song Hanjun. He injured Ding Dang. Yi Tianlei said with fire in his eyes. The Song family made a move. Yi Xuanji and Yi Tianming were shocked. They looked at each other. Obviously, they did not expect the Song family to act so quickly. Previously, when the news of Chu Chongyang's death came, Yi Xuanji also had the thought of dealing with Tang Zheng. However, he suppressed this thought and prepared to wait and see. However, the Song family was obviously unwilling to be left behind and took the initiative to make a move. Even Song Hanjun couldn't succeed? This made the two of them even more suspicious. Humph, Song Hanjun is despicable and shameless. He took advantage of the situation but didn't gain any benefits. I heard that he was also injured by Tang Zheng. Yi Tianlei said, venting his anger. Song Hanjun was injured? Yi Xuanji and Yi Tianming's hearts were fiercely shocked. The two of them said in shock, Tang Zheng killed Chu Chongyang and still has the strength to deal with Song Hanjun. This is too unfathomable. The two of them actually felt somewhat fortunate. Fortunately, they hadn't been in a hurry to make a move. Otherwise, they would have ended up like Song Hanjun. That would truly be a joke to others. Don't even mention that he didn't hurt Song Hanjun. Even if he didn't hurt him, Song Hanjun made a move on Ding Dang, so I definitely won't let this go. Yi Tianlei hatefully said. Tianlei, don't act rashly. This matter is very complicated and not as simple as it seems on the surface. Moreover, because of what happened today, the capital will become even more chaotic. At this moment, if you don't see the situation clearly and act rashly, there will only be benefits and no harm. Do you understand? Yi Xuanji warned. But Song Hanjun hurt Ding Dang. Yi Tianlei unwillingly said. Yi Xuanji said with a heavy face, Ding Dong's matter will naturally be settled in the future. There's no need to rush. Yi Tianming glanced into the room and saw that Tang Zheng was lying on the bed unconscious. He had a bright idea and said, since the Song family has spent so much effort to deal with Tang Zheng, and now that Tang Zheng has fallen into our hands without any resistance, doesn't that mean we can use Tang Zheng to make an issue out of it? Yi Tianlei decisively objected. Yi Tianming sneered, he has nothing to do with the Ye family. Is it necessary for you to protect him? In short, Tang Zheng falling into our hands is definitely a good thing for us. Whether we hand him over to the Chu family or Wu Zong, it will be of great benefit to the Ye family. If he was handed over to the Chu family, then they would definitely rope in the Chu family. At this moment, the Chu family needed foreign aid the most, and the Ye family extended an olive branch. The Chu family would definitely bite this hook and not let go. Yi Xuanji raised his eyebrows and seemed to be quite moved. When Yi Tianlei saw this, he was shocked and advised, absolutely not, father. Tang Zheng has been kind to the Ye family. Aren't we repaying kindness with enmity? Yi Ku, who had been silent, finally opened her mouth and asked curiously, Second uncle, you have always said that Tang Zheng has been kind to the Ye family, but why have I never seen him do anything to the Ye family? This. Yi Tianlei looked at his father. The matter of the life-continuing pill was a secret. Only the people involved knew about it. Even Yi Tianming and the others did not know about it. Yi Xuanji understood Yi Tianlei's meaning and waved his hand, saying, don't talk about it. The Ye family and Tang Zheng have nothing to do with each other. There is no grudge between them. His words had already cut off all ties with Tang Zheng. As for the matter of the life-continuing pill, he had also forgotten about it. Yi Tianlei was very disappointed in his heart, but he did not dare to say anything. Tianlei, why are you still arguing here? Ding Dong's injuries are very serious. We are helpless. We must ask the senior king of medicine to come and treat her. Feng Xinyang rushed out from another room and shouted in exasperation. When Yi Tianlei heard this, he did not care about this issue and quickly rushed in. He found that Yi Dingdang had already changed into clean clothes, but her face was getting paler and paler. Her body was shivering and she was unconscious. She was on the verge of death. Father, you are familiar with the senior king of medicine. Do you know where he is now? Yi Tianlei asked anxiously. Yi Xuanji said, the king of medicine is still in the capital. During this time, he has been staying in the palace to treat the leader's illness. I will contact him immediately. I'll go pick him up. Yi Tianlei did not give him any chance to explain. He impatiently rushed out and drove away. Yi Xuanji contacted the king of medicine and explained the situation. Then he told Feng Xinyang to take good care of Yi Dingdang and return to his room. Yi Tianming, Yi Ku and Yi Meiyu looked at each other in dismay. Suddenly, Yi Meiyu pointed to Tang Zheng's room and said quietly, Dad, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Capture him and hand him over to either side. Yi Meiyu's feelings towards Tang Zheng were very complicated. At the beginning, she did not look down on Tang Zheng at all, but after Tang Zheng shone a little bit, she even had the idea of trying to rope in Tang Zheng to be her own subject. However, Tang Zheng did not give her any face at all, causing her to return in failure. Of course, because of this, her hatred for Tang Zheng grew day by day. Ever since his identity as a cultivator was exposed, she had a high-sounding reason to deal with Tang Zheng. This was a rare opportunity, so how could she let it go so easily? Yika's expression changed and said, but Grandpa hasn't said anything yet. Yi Meiyu curled her lips and said, so what if Grandpa hasn't said anything? If we act first and report later, Grandpa will definitely have no objections. Right now, second uncle wants to protect Tang Zheng. Taking advantage of the fact that he is not at home, we will send Tang Zheng out without anyone noticing. When he comes back, everything will be over. What can he do to us? Moreover, I think Grandpa's attitude is also acquiescing, but because of second uncle's face, he can't say it directly. Yi Tianming's expression changed. After a long while, he finally gritted his teeth and said, okay, according to what Meiyu said, we will control Tang Zheng and send him out of the Ye family first. Then, we will decide whether to send him to the Chu family or Wu Zone. Yi Meiyu was overjoyed and cheered with joy. She praised, Father is wise, this is definitely one of the wisest decisions you have ever made. Kacha. As soon as her voice fell, a bolt of lightning flashed across the night sky, illuminating the faces of the three people. Yi Tianming's heartstrings trembled, and he suddenly had a bad premonition. It seemed that this decision would cause a great disaster. He glanced at the dark clouds in the sky and muttered, why is the weather getting weirder and weirder? There is still thunder and lightning in the winter. He shook his head and drove away the messy thoughts in his heart and said, Yi Ku, you go and do this matter. Be careful not to let outsiders know. As for Tianlei, when he comes back and asks, just say that you don't know. Just treat it as if Tang Zheng woke up and left by himself. Yes, I understand, and I will tell the servants to directly say that Tang Zheng left by himself. There will definitely be no flaws. Since her father had made up his mind, Yi Ku would no longer object and strive to do this matter perfectly. Yi Tianming looked at Yi Ku approvingly. His son's mind was still very meticulous, and he considered the problem thoroughly. He could be of great use in the future. Tang Zheng disappeared. He was put in the car by Yi Ku and disappeared in the rainy night. Not long after, Yi Tianlei returned with King of Medicine. King of Medicine immediately started treatment for Yi Dingdang. Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang anxiously waited outside the door and kept pacing back and forth. How is the little handsome brother? Suddenly, Feng Xinyang asked casually. He is lying in bed in a coma. I don't know if he woke up or not. Yi Tianlei said as he directly went to the room, but when he saw the empty room he was stunned for a moment and immediately roared in anger, Where is Tang Zheng? The servant hurriedly ran over and said with trepidation, He woke up by himself and then left. Left? He was injured, why didn't you stop him? Yi Tianlei asked. The servant panicked and said, "We don't dare." Yi Tianlei coldly snorted and knew that it was useless to investigate. He was just worried about where Tang Jing had gone. It was raining heavily outside. What if he encountered an enemy? But at this time, going out to find him was like looking for a needle in a haystack. It was useless. Yi Dingdang was still receiving treatment, and he was also unable to do anything. Feng Xinyang saw her husband come back with a livid face. She quickly asked about Tang Zhang's situation, but was told that he had left on his own. Feng Xinyang immediately frowned and said in bewilderment, "Why would the little handsome brother leave without even saying goodbye? This isn't his style. Maybe he hates it here, so he left without saying goodbye. The next time we meet him, we will thank him together," Yi Tianlei said. Feng Xinyang's heart was in a mess. Her heart was worried about her daughter, and she really did not have any extra thoughts to carefully figure it out. This storm was the heaviest winter rain in the capital in 20 years. The city's filth was washed away, and many conspiracies were hidden in the rain. A car stopped in a quiet place. Yi Ke held the phone and sat in the driver's seat. Her face was dignified and said, "Father, you mean to inform Chu family and Wu Zong about Tang Zhang's news? Make 2 deals?" "Yes, anyway they want to get rid of Tang Zhang quickly. In this case, give this good news to them. 1 business to earn 2 benefits, maximize the benefits, and let them take Tang Zhang's little life together." Yi Tianming said, "Sure enough, he is an old fox. He is so smart." Yi Ke's heart was secretly convinced. This move is still good. "You wait in place and don't move. They will come to you," Yi Tianming warned. Chapter 469. Yi Ke sat in the driver's seat and turned her head to look at Tang Zhang, who was lying in the back seat and could not move. His expression was very complicated. He had no direct conflict with Tang Zhang, but the appearance of Yi Tianlei interrupted his established steps and original life. Yi Tianlei returned to the Ye family, and the position of the next head of the family was undecided. Who would be the next head of the family? The more he thought about it, the more uncertain he was. From the time Yi Ke could remember, he was destined to become the successor of the 3rd generation of the Yi family. He had always been strict with himself, unlike Chu Xiaofeng, this kind of playboy, who liked to play with cats and dogs, and was insufferably arrogant. He was conscientious and prepared for his future. Even when Yi Tianlei had just returned to the Ye family, he did not feel an obvious threat, but since the appearance of Tang Zhang, Yi Tianlei's limelight gradually flourished. Yi Ke finally felt threatened, so she couldn't wait to inform her father, Yi Tianming, to return to China. Tang Zhang caused all this to have a qualitative change. Therefore, his feelings about Tang Zhang were very complicated, and he muttered to himself, "Tang Zhang, don't blame me. All this is not what I want, but I have to do it for the Ye family and for myself." Dong dong. The car door was knocked, and Chu Xiaofeng's face appeared in front of the window. "Plus, you came quite quickly." Yi Ke got off the car. Chu Xiaofeng's face was gloomy. This matter was really full of twists and turns. He originally thought that it was hopeless to get rid of Tang Zhang, but he did not expect that Tang Zhang actually fell into the hands of the Ye family, and the Ye family was willing to offer him with both hands. Of course, the Ye family refused. Chu Mingxian was preparing for Chu Chongyang's funeral, so he specially sent his son, Chu Xiaofeng, to come and receive Tang Zhang. According to their intention, since Tang Zhang had been captured, they would bring him to Chu Chongyang's coffin and use his blood to pay tribute to Chu Chongyang. Chu Xiaofeng stared at Tang Zhang in the back seat with fire in his eyes and said, "The Chu family will remember this matter." He opened the car door and dragged Tang Zhang out. Seeing that he had no intention of immediately solving Tang Zhang, Yi Ke asked, "What are you going to do?" "Of course we'll bring him back and kill him." "You still want to bring him back?" Yi Ke's face sank. Her and Yi Tianming's intention was to let the Chu family and the martial organization deal with Tang Zhang together, so that they could sell 2 favors. Now that the people from the martial sect had not arrived yet, he could not let the Chu clan take him away just like that. "Of course." Chu Xiaofeng frowned. "Is there a problem?" "There is no big problem, but the martial organization's people will come soon. You can take him away together." Yi Ke said, "Martial ancestor? Did you inform them too?" The martial sect just so happens to have people in the capital, and Tang Zheng is a cultivator, so of course we have to inform them. Yi Ku suddenly stared at a beautiful figure walking in the rainy night and said, "The martial organization's people are here." Chu Xiaofeng turned his head and looked. His heart was shocked, but he still resolutely said, "Tang Zheng killed my grandfather, I must take him away." "That depends on whether you have the ability." Martial's voice floated from afar. Her voice fell, and she was already standing in front of the two people. Yi Ku spread out her hands and shrugged, saying, "I have already handed him over to you. As for how to discuss how to deal with him, that is your business. I will not express my opinion." Martial coldly said, "He is a cultivator. Of course he has to be handed over to the martial organization. No, he is the enemy of the Chu family. How can he fall into the hands of others? I must take him away." Chu Xiaofeng did not give in. Martial disdainfully said, "Then do you have the ability?" "You." Chu Xiaofeng suddenly stagnated and his face turned red. "Don't go too far. This is the capital, not other places." The implication was that the Chu family was powerful in the capital, and even the martial organization had to have scruples and give the Chu family face. But Chu Xiaofeng still underestimated the pride of the martial organization. Martial lightly swept a glance at him and said, "So what if it is the capital? If you don't want the Chu family to be destroyed, then hand over Tang Zheng to me and live with your tail between your legs. This way you can live for a few more days." Chu Xiaofeng had already received a lot of stimulation, and his emotions had reached the peak of eruption. Hearing these words, it was like a barrel of explosives that was immediately ignited. He did not care about the illustrious reputation of the martial organization and immediately said angrily, "I will not hand him over to you. If you have the guts, then kill me. I want to see if the martial organization really can cover the sky with one hand." Holding onto Tang Zheng's two arms, he walked towards his own car, completely ignoring martial arts. Seeing this, Yi Ku secretly cried out, but it was too late to persuade. She only saw Martial's palm strike out and said, "If you want to die, then I will fulfill your wish." Martial was a person who killed people without blinking an eye. Although she had suffered a lot in the hands of Tang Zheng, she had never suffered a loss in front of others. Chu Xiaofeng deliberately provoked her, and she had no intention of showing mercy. A roaring flame blade ruthlessly slashed at Chu Xiaofeng's back. Chu Xiaofeng suddenly felt a heat wave coming, and was shocked, and quickly threw Tang Zheng behind him. Martial immediately changed her move, and suddenly grabbed Tang Zheng's shoulder and fell into her palm. Taking advantage of the situation, Tang Zheng lay in her arms. His tall body hit her chest, and the two people were closely pressed together. Her heart could not help but shake. Chu Xiaofeng saw the cooked duck fly away. He glared and roared, "Give him back to me." Martial did not talk nonsense with him, and directly offered him a roaring flame blade. Chu Xiaofeng retreated in embarrassment. He could only stare like a tiger watching its prey, but he did not dare to come forward to grab people. Martial prepared to leave with Tang Zheng. Yi Ku finally couldn't help but ask, "Are you going to deal with him? This is not a problem you should care about." Martial did not look back and disappeared into the pouring rain with Tang Zheng, leaving the two people looking at each other, not knowing what to do. Chu Xiaofeng glared at Yi Ku and said, "You shouldn't have told this news to that smelly woman." Yi Ku looked embarrassed. She and Yi Tianming originally hoped to maximize the benefits, but they did not expect Martial to not play according to the routine and instead provoked Chu Xiaofeng. He could not let his hard work go to waste and quickly advised, "Martial will definitely kill Tang Zheng, and it can be considered as revenge for the Chongyang family head." Chu Xiaofeng was non-committal, snorted angrily, and turned away. Although Chu Xiaofeng was very unwilling, he believed that Tang Zheng was indeed dead, but not in his hands, but in the hands of Martial. Would Martial kill Tang Zheng? Of course not. He looked at the unconscious Tang Zheng and muttered to himself, "You are really too unexpected. You actually did such a big thing. I'm afraid that the capital will not tolerate you. The sect master has always wanted you to go to Martial. It would be better to take this opportunity to take you there." However, she immediately remembered Tang Zheng's attitude towards this matter and was somewhat shaken. The sect master had once told her not to force Tang Jing, and that everything had to be done voluntarily. If she took him away at this moment, it would definitely not be his original intention. Marshall thought hard and denied this point after a while. Tang Jing was already unconscious. Where would the original intention come from? Moreover, this was also to protect him. Marshall smiled proudly, very satisfied with the excuse he found. However, the smile did not last long. In an instant, it disappeared completely, and his face became very dignified. More than 10 people walked out from the corner of the street, each holding an oil paper umbrella. Raindrops fell on the oil paper umbrella, and a curtain of water hung on the edge of the umbrella. Marshall looked at the more than 10 people and asked, "Who are you?" "Hee, Marshall, don't you recognize me so quickly?" A familiar voice floated out from under the oil paper umbrella. The umbrella gently lifted up, revealing a beautiful face. Li Xiaotian. Li Xiaotian was smiling as he looked at Marshall, and his gaze lingered on Tang Jing, who was in her arms. He smiled like a flower and said, "You acted really quickly, he actually fell into your hands." Back then, the two of them had not seen each other since they parted ways in the 10,000 huge mountains. However, Li Xiaoyan had brought so many people to this moment. "Get out of the way," Marshall said expressionlessly. Marshall's smile did not diminish as he asked, "May I ask, what do you plan to do with him?" "This is a matter of the Marshall sect. You don't need to care," Marshall replied coldly. Li Xiaoyan shrugged and said, "Is that so? However, the information shows that during this period of time, you and him have always been at odds. It doesn't seem like the Marshall sect's attitude towards cultivators. This is really strange. Could it be that the Marshall sect has changed its tradition and instead of killing cultivators, it provides protection?" Marshall's heart skipped a beat. The Li Palace's intelligence system was truly all-pervasive. The relationship between the two of them in the capital was actually not hidden from their eyes and ears. "Nonsense," Marshall immediately retorted. He could not let the rules of the Marshall sect be broken. The Marshall sect has always viewed cultivators as their mortal enemies. How could they provide protection for them? "Oh, is that so? Then kill him now and I'll believe your words. Didn't the Marshall sect do this in the past? Capture a cultivator and directly cut him in half, clean and tidy." Li Xiaotian put on a fake smile, but his words were filled with a strong killing intent, causing people to tremble in fear. Back then, Li Xiaotian was still chatting and laughing with Tang Jing, and even experienced the mysterious things in the Buzhou mountain together. But now, she actually had the intention to kill Tang Jing. This matter had changed so quickly that it was truly unexpected. It was no wonder that Tang Jing had always regarded her as a black-bellied girl. Li Xiaotian's attitude towards Tang Jing had changed so much that it was inseparable from the trip to the 10,000 huge mountains. It was precisely because she had witnessed the strength of the 100 Transformations Star Lord that she understood how powerful and terrifying cultivators were. Now, her attitude towards cultivators had changed from indifference to wanting to kill them quickly. It was simply a replica of the previous Marshall sect. Marshall frowned and said, "You don't have the qualifications to tell me what to do. Get out of the way, or else I won't be polite." "Is that so? I know you're very powerful, so I came prepared." Li Xiaotian waved his hand forward, and the others immediately walked towards Marshall. A sharp aura gushed out and interweaved in the air. The speed of the rain falling from the sky actually slowed down, and the oil paper umbrella in their hands started to spin faster and faster. Marshall's pupils constricted and said, 12 people, is this the famous 12 palaces of the Li Palace? Since you know him, then please enlighten me," Li Xiaotian said with a smile. Chapter 470. The 12 of them moved in one breath, as if they were one person, quickly surrounding Marshall and Tang Jing in the center, the oil paper umbrella quickly spinning. So. The sound of breaking air rang out. The raindrops were like bullets shot out from a gun barrel, covering the sky and covering the earth as they flew towards Marshall. Marshall raised his eyebrows, his entire body emitting killing intent. He stomped on the ground with one foot, causing the raindrops to fly up, as if they had a life of their own. They soared into the air. Marshall waved his hand, and a scorching wave of air rushed out in all directions. These water droplets seemed to have turned into small flames, quickly colliding with the raindrops that were like bullets. Bang, bang, bang. A series of explosions rang out. But before these sounds disappeared, the 10 of them moved like the wind, quickly changing their positions, and the encirclement became smaller and smaller. An oil paper umbrella suddenly pierced out, straight for the space between Marshall's eyebrows. Marshall's expression did not change. He used Roaring Flame Blade. In an instant, all the raindrops falling from the sky evaporated, and this Roaring Flame Blade met the oil paper umbrella. The oil paper umbrella was blocked and bounced back, but the Roaring Flame Blade did not take advantage of the opportunity to pursue, because the other 3 oil paper umbrellas attacked at the same time. Furthermore, the attack was 10 plus or minus, and the position of the attack was completely different, the top, middle, and bottom 3, with tacit understanding, murderous intent. Marshall immediately dealt with it, escaping from the 3 consecutive attacks, but the attacks of the 12 palaces were endless, one move after another. It was too much for the eyes to take in. Marshall's cultivation had already increased from the 1st grade natal stage to the 3rd grade natal stage. His fighting strength had soared, and he was not flustered by the continuous attacks. Instead, he was able to deal with them with ease. This battle was extremely intense. Both sides had their own strengths, danger surrounded them, and the battle was difficult to determine. Li Xiaotian watched coldly from the sidelines. Unknowingly, she frowned and muttered, "The last time we met in the 10,000 Great Mountains, she was only at the 1st grade natal stage. Why is it that the fighting strength she is displaying has already surpassed the 1st grade natal stage, and even the 2nd grade natal stage?" In this period of time, Li Xiaoyan had returned to Li Palace and cultivated tirelessly. She had also gained some benefits, reaching the 2nd grade natal stage, but she did not expect Marshall's cultivation to completely surpass her. This puzzled her no matter how she thought about it. But so what if he's a 3rd grade natal realm warrior? The 12 palaces' battle prowess can completely crush a 3rd grade natal realm warrior. The 12 people from the 12 palaces were all 1st grade Xiantian realm cultivators, and each of them was only in their 20s. They were only a few years older than Li Xiaotian. To be able to have such a cultivation at such a young age, they could be considered to be quite capable. However, these people had a fatal flaw. Li Palace had used a secret method to cultivate them to become experts. In other words, according to their true talent, it was impossible for them to reach the 1st grade of the Xiantian realm at their age. However, Li Palace could use a secret method to achieve this. However, there was a saying, pulling the shoots to help them grow. Although their cultivation could be improved quickly, their future achievements would not be great. They would be stuck at the 5th grade of innate realm for their entire lives, unable to reach the peak of martial arts. Their individual strength wasn't great, but when the 12 of them worked together, their battle prowess soared. This was the power of the 12 palaces. Their battle would be coordinated with a formation called the 12 Palaces Killing Formation. This formation could stack their strength and finally achieve the goal of killing enemies with higher cultivation than them. Change formation. Li Xiaotian coldly shouted, and the movements of the 12 people changed in an instant. Their footsteps became faster, and like a business, wisps of smoke floated around Marshall. Marshall hugged Tang Zheng with one hand and was no longer able to fight. She pulled out her belt and tied Tang Zheng to her back. With Tang Zheng on her back, she looked at the enemy without fear. Li Xiaoan felt Marshall's determination and said, "Marshall, why are you so stubborn? Kill Tang Zheng and we will leave. We will definitely not make things difficult for you." Li Palace and Marshall Organization were after all members of the 3 mysterious organizations. Unless there was no other choice, Li Xiaotian did not want to shed all pretense of cordiality. Marshall bit her lips, took a deep breath and said, "With me here, if you want to kill him, you have to ask my Roaring Flame Blade first. You are very clear on the power of the 12 palaces. You are not their opponent. Even if you continue to fight, you will only lose," Li Xiaotian advised. Marshall stared angrily. Her eyes were firm and did not speak. Li Xiaotian already understood Marshall's thoughts. Today, there was no way to get the best of both worlds. Thus, he clenched his teeth and said, "Then there is nothing to talk about." The attacks of the 12 palaces suddenly became even more fierce. If it was a storm before, then it was now a tsunami. Wave after wave of attacks were like monstrous waves crashing towards Marshall. Marshall was like a small boat in the ocean, floating and sinking, resisting with difficulty. Marshall was very clear on the strength of the 12 palaces. She was not their opponent, but she would not admit defeat. Not only was this related to her pride, it was also related to the honor of the Marshall Organization. How could the people of the Marshall Organization admit defeat to the Lee Palace? That way, she would not have the face to see the sect master. Even if she died in battle, she would not hesitate. From the corner of her eyes, she glanced at Tang Jing, who was hanging his head on her shoulder, and thought, "Tang Jing, it seems like we are going to die together today." For some reason, the charming scene in the 10,000 Great Mountains appeared in her mind. However, she immediately restrained her thoughts and faced the enemy's attack. Wu's roaring flame blade had already reached the point of perfection. Unknowingly, her palm had turned red, like a red-hot soldering iron. Streams of hot air rose up, and the rain in the sky turned into steam before it even landed on her palm. In an instant, steam lingered around her, as if it had turned into a fairyland. Unknowingly, the rain stopped. However, the sky was still dark and oppressive. Furthermore, there were flashes of lightning in the clouds, as if they could fall at any time. Move after move of the roaring flame saber illuminated the pitch-black night, as well as the 12 zodiacs opposite them. The oil paper umbrellas in their hands were already in tatters. The surface of the umbrella had completely disappeared, leaving only the bamboo pole of the umbrella. And this was not the main pole of an ordinary umbrella. Instead, it was an iron rod. It was very slender, just like the slender waist of the 12 palaces. Every iron rod was shining with a cold light. It was a sharp weapon used to take a person's life. The 12 iron rods advanced and retreated at the same time. There were many changes, making it hard for people to guard against. One of the iron rods pierced into Marshall's arm, bringing about a trace of blood. Marshall's eyebrows trembled slightly, and then she counterattacked without saying a word. After a successful attack, the opponent did not give chase and retreated unscathed. However, there were people attacking from other directions. This repeated over and over again. Marshall's defeat gradually became apparent. There were a few times when the iron rod was about to pierce Tang Zheng's back. Marshall suddenly turned around and used her own body to block it. Because of this, her shoulder and abdomen were injured. Blood flowed out from her body and fell to the ground. It mixed with the rain and seeped into the ground. Marshall's expression did not change. She was as firm as a rock. Li Xiaonan sighed and said, "Why are you doing this? He is a cultivator and you are a martial artist. You are natural enemies. Why are you not hesitating to sacrifice your own life for him?" Marshall did not know the answer. She only knew that Tang Zheng was extremely important to the martial sect. Furthermore, it was more likely that he was the sect master's descendant. How could she let anything happen to Tang Jing? Take her down. Just don't kill her. Li Xiaotian gave the final order. The attacks of the 12 palaces became more and more unpredictable. Suddenly, an iron rod pierced through Marshall's shoulder. A few people flashed behind her and grabbed Tang Jing. With a fierce pull, the belt broke and Tang Jing was separated from her body. Marshall seemed to have gone crazy. She did not care about the pain and roared, "No!" Her hands quickly grabbed the iron rod on her shoulder and slashed at the iron rod with her roaring flame blade. Kacha! The iron rod broke into two. She grabbed the half of the iron rod that pierced her body and pulled it out without hesitation. She threw it forward. The iron rod was still stained with her blood. It accurately shot into the throat of a 12 palaces woman. She immediately fell to the ground and died. With one person dead, a flaw appeared in the 12 palaces killing formation. Its power was greatly reduced. However, Tang Zheng was already snatched away. It was almost impossible for Marshall to snatch him back. Wu's face was ashen as he stared at Li Xiaolan in anger and said, "Return him to me." Tang Zheng had already fallen into Li Xiaotian's hands. Seeing that he was unconscious, Li Xiaotian's expression was complicated. He thought to himself, if not for the fact that I had seen so much in the prehistoric heavenly tomb in the Buzhou mountain, I wouldn't have had the heart to kill you. If you want to blame someone, you can only blame yourself for being a cultivator. However, if I kill you like this, the whereabouts of the heaven-shocking bow and the shooting sun arrows will be unknown. Li Xiaotian had always been thinking about these two divine weapons. Back then, Tang Jing had only given her one shooting sun arrow, and she cherished it a lot. If she could take these two divine weapons for herself, her strength would really increase rapidly. But if I don't kill you while you're unconscious, when you wake up, you'll definitely have many ways to escape. Li Xiaoyan was also a brave and scheming person. He did things cleanly and efficiently. Since he recognized the threat of Tang Jing, then even if he had to give up the two divine weapons, he had to kill him. Seeing the dense killing intent in Li Xiaoyan's eyes, Wu Xian's heart was in a mess, and continued to shout, "Put him down." Li Xiaotian suddenly raised his head, the corner of his mouth raised into a smile. He looked at Wu with interest and said, "I don't know what exactly the martial sect is planning to do to him, but if I can ruin the martial sect's plans, then it will be a happy thing. Furthermore, if I kill him, no one in the world will say anything because this world is the world of martial artists. Of course they won't stand up for a cultivator, don't you think so? If you kill him, then you will be the enemy of the martial sect. The sect master will definitely not let you off." Wu did not dare to tell the truth. Otherwise, if the world knew that the son of the martial sect's sect master was a cultivator, it would be the biggest joke in the world. The prestige and reputation of the martial sect would plummet and fall off the altar. This was an unacceptable result. Even if Wu wanted to protect Tang Zheng, he did not dare to reveal this matter. Chapter 471. Li Xiaotian suddenly grabbed Tang Zheng's neck. The powerful force was determined to break his neck in one go. "Don't!" Marshall subconsciously shouted to stop him, but it only attracted Li Xiaotian's cold smile. Boom! Suddenly, the sound of thunder in the sky caused the heaven and earth to tremble. Lightning tore through the night sky, illuminating the heaven and earth in a pale white. A ball of flame fell from the sky. It was as if a horn was blown. In an instant, dozens of balls of flame fell from the sky. Li Xiaoyan's hand involuntarily stopped. He raised his head and looked at the sky in shock. What's going on? Balls of fire actually fell from the sky. Before Li Xiaotian could react, a few balls of flame fell in their direction. Li Xiaotian hurriedly shouted, "Dodge!" He grabbed Tang Zheng and dodged to the side, but a girl from the 12 zodiacs was one step slower and was touched by the flames. It was as if she was drenched in gasoline. With a single touch, she turned into a large fireball in the blink of an eye. This flame was very strange. In less than a minute, that person was burned to ashes, leaving only a mournful scream that still echoed in everyone's ears. The 12 zodiacs lost 2 members. The power was greatly reduced. The key was that everyone was looking at the sky in shock, not knowing what was going on. Suddenly, 2 roars sounded in the sky, only to see the dark clouds rolling, the flames and lightning reflecting each other. The scene was terrifying. Li Xiaotian temporarily forgot about Tang Zheng in his hand. He stared blankly at the black clouds, muttering as if he was sleep-talking, "Demon beast, it's a demon beast." Demon beasts appeared in the sky above the capital, and it was not 1, but 2. These 2 demon beasts were fighting fiercely. However, the fire at the city gate affected the fish in the moat. The flames falling from the sky immediately ignited the houses on the ground. Fortunately, this area was not bustling, and because it had just rained, the houses were wet, weakening the power of the flames. But even so, 2 houses were emitting billowing black smoke. Many people were rushing out of the buildings, screaming in panic. Wu looked at the sky in confusion, but in the next moment, she retracted her attention and looked at Tang Zheng. A figure flashed. Marshall was like a cool breeze, directly arriving in front of Li Xiaoyan. Li Xiaotian reacted quickly. The tip of his foot touched the ground and quickly retreated, while the other helpers also quickly stood in front of Li Xiaotian to protect him, blocking Marshall's attack. Li Xiaotian came back to his senses and said, The world is really in chaos. Such a powerful demonic beast actually appeared in the capital. A long night without sleep is full of dreams. I will kill Tang Jing right now. Li Xiaotian tightened his grip, and Tang Jing's neck made a cracking sound, as if his bones were breaking. Marshall's eyes were about to split open, and Zhuang Ruo roared crazily, but to no avail. Just at this moment, a bolt of lightning and flame simultaneously landed on Li Xiaotian's position. Li Xiaotian hastily reacted, and missed the opportunity to kill Tang Jing. Li Xiaotian stomped his feet in hatred. He raised his head to look at the sky, only to see the black clouds dissipating, revealing the two colossal creatures hiding behind the black clouds. Li Xiaoan could not help but exclaim, "Thundercloud Beast." Yes, one of the colossal creatures in the sky was the Thundercloud Beast, and the other colossal creature was a pair of fiery red wings. The big bird spat out flames, dyeing the sky red. The Thundercloud Beast was not to be outdone. Lightning covered the sky as it fought with the big bird happily. What kind of demonic beast is this big bird? This question popped up in Li Xiaotian's mind, but in an instant, her attention shifted to Tang Jing in her hands. Since the Thundercloud Beast had appeared in the capital, if she did not immediately get rid of Tang Jing, then there would be no chance. If Tian Chanzi also appeared, then she would not have the chance to escape. But when she reacted, it was already too late. The Thundercloud Beast in the sky had already discovered Tang Jing on the ground, and could not help but widen its eyes. It roared towards the sky, and like a whirlwind, it descended from the sky, heading straight for Li Xiaotian. The 12 zodiacs hurriedly blocked, but only saw a flash of lightning, and 10 people were immediately entangled by the lightning, turning into charcoal and falling to the ground. The Thundercloud Beast completely disintegrated the famous 12 zodiacs, and sent out a bolt of lightning heading straight for Li Xiaotian. Li Xiaotian let out a strange cry, threw Tang Jing towards the lightning, and quickly retreated. She knew that it was already too late. With the protection of the Thundercloud Beast, she would not be able to harm Tang Jing. Just as the lightning was about to hit Tang Jing, the lightning disappeared without any warning, and the Thundercloud Beast's claws grabbed onto Tang Jing, sending him to lie on its back. Marshall was not unfamiliar with the Thundercloud Beast. Seeing the situation, he could not help but heave a sigh of relief, then fiercely stared at Li Xiaoan, gritted his teeth and said, "Li Xiaoan, I am not done with you." Li Xiaoan was unmoved and said, "If you want to deal with me, then wait until next time." Before she finished speaking, she glanced at Tang Jing and unwillingly turned around and ran. She knew that she was not a match for Marshall and was even more not a match for the Thundercloud Beast, so it was better to leave first. Chirp. With a bird cry, the big bird flapped its wings and swooped down, spitting out another stream of flames from its sharp beak. The Thundercloud Beast raised its head and retaliated. The flames and lightning collided in the air, creating dazzling sparks. "Flame bird, you are not my match. Obediently surrender," the Thundercloud Beast said directly. The flame bird was not an ordinary demonic beast. It could also speak human language. It sneered, "Thundercloud Beast, you betrayed Master. Master is looking everywhere for your whereabouts. Now that I have found you, let's see how you escape. Your death is not far away." Flame bird, it's your business that you are willing to recognize that person as your master. You don't have the ability to kill me, the Thundercloud Beast said angrily. Marshall listened to the conversation between the two at a loss. He was extremely curious about the master they spoke of. Just who could subdue such a powerful demonic beast? "When I capture you, Master will definitely be very happy," the flame bird said excitedly. "Then let's see if you have the ability." The Thundercloud Beast soared into the air and pounced towards the flame bird. The two demonic beasts fought in the sky in an earth-shattering manner. However, Tang Jing acted as if nothing had happened and continued to sleep on the back of the Thundercloud Beast. Marshall stared blankly at the scene in the sky. He let out a long sigh and said faintly, "This time, the world is really going to be in chaos. How can such a huge commotion be hidden from the world?" Indeed, he could not hide it. In the past few days, too many unbelievable things had happened in the capital. A few days ago, there was an earthquake, and just now, there was lightning and thunder, as well as a violent storm. Although it was late at night and it was pitch black, under the illumination of the flames and lightning in the sky, although it was not as bright as day, the rough outlines of the two demonic beasts were still reflected in the eyes of many people. This was a world where communication was developed. It was too difficult to keep a secret, especially with such a shocking incident. It was no less than the topic of aliens that people had always been talking about. Looking at the two colossi, it was as if they were aliens with shocking abilities in the movies. One by one, people held up their phones, cameras, and video recorders, recording this earth-shattering scene. These people were not afraid, but excited. They had an instinctive excitement towards novel things. However, some people could not get excited. The officials hoped for stability, even though they already knew of the existence of demonic beasts and had even captured a few demonic beasts from the 10,000 huge mountains to study. However, they did not expect that these two colossi would appear in the sky above the capital. It was completely out of their expectations. The emergency plan was immediately activated. Countless military vehicles drove out of the military hospital and rushed over as fast as lightning. Then, they blocked the people who were watching the show. These few streets were immediately sealed off and became a temporary military restricted zone. Armed soldiers guarded every intersection, and even the police were not allowed to enter. A few military personnel walked in. The person in the lead was Major General Xing Feng, who had met Tang Jing once in Dianan, and beside him was Kai Geibin. Xing Feng had a deep relationship with the Long family. Back then he had informed Long Xinyuan and revealed Tang Zheng's whereabouts, but in the end, Tang Zheng had escaped unscathed. However, because Xing Feng had dealt with the demonic beasts, he was directly transferred from the Dianan military district to the capital military district. The officials attached great importance to the appearance of cultivators and demonic beasts. Although it was a secret, they had already started to make preparations internally. Among them, a new organization called the Dragon Group was established to deal with this kind of troublesome matter. Because Xing Feng had relevant experience, he was temporarily transferred to the position of team leader of the Dragon Group. Although he was only a team leader, he had the right to report to the highest leader of the country. Therefore, Xing Feng could be considered to have been promoted. Kai Guibin had also risen in rank. He had already been promoted from captain to vice division commander. It could be said that he had completed a huge leap in his life. However, no one expected that not long after the establishment of the Dragon Group, two demonic beasts would appear in the capital without any warning. What kind of place was the capital? This was the central hub of a country. It was like the heart of a person. Yet, such a huge situation had occurred here. That would be a dereliction of duty for the Dragon Group. Therefore, Xing Feng and Kai Guibin's expressions were not very good. They took large strides, and many soldiers followed in an orderly manner. The two of them looked at the scene in the sky. Xing Feng's face was ashen as he said, "Think of a way to get them down first." In the sky, under the watchful eyes of everyone, what other secrets could there be? It will only make things worse. Kai Guibin nodded his head in agreement. He waved his hand behind him, and a few fully armed people quickly walked up and stood at attention. "Go, get them down," Kai Guibin ordered. Yes. This group of people accepted the order without any hesitation, as if they completely ignored the huge monster in the sky. They were not afraid at all. Whoosh, 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 flames shot out from the backs of these soldiers. They soared into the sky like rockets. They actually flew. Chapter 472. After these soldiers soared into the sky, they floated in the air with the two beasts. The thundercloud beast and the flame bird also noticed these uninvited guests. They immediately looked up to the sky and roared. Lightning and flame attacked these soldiers. These soldiers were all well-trained and nimbly dodged. Then, with a flash of fire in their hands, special bullets were shot out. The flame bird did not put the other party in its eyes. It opened its mouth and flames filled the sky. Bang, bang, bang. A few bullets were wrapped in flames and quickly exploded. A strange scene appeared. After the bombs exploded, cold air gushed out. The cold air quickly spread in all directions and the flames were immediately extinguished. Even the air in the sky was frozen, forming an ice fog. There were a few bullets that dodged the flames and shot towards the flame bird. Bang! The bullets exploded on the surface of the flame bird's body. The cold air leaked out and the flame bird's feathers were immediately frozen into ice. What's going on? The flame bird was shocked and screamed, flapping its wings fiercely. Gotcha! The frozen feathers were like ice, fragmented and shattered. In the blink of an eye, they were shattered into pieces and scattered all over the sky. The flame bird's shrill screams resounded through the sky. It angrily spat fire at the soldiers. One of the soldiers could not dodge in time and immediately turned into a ball of fire. However, the soldiers did not retreat. Instead, they fought bravely and the accuracy of the bullets became higher. After a while, the flame bird's wings were frozen into ice. The thundercloud beast was not in a hurry to attack. It was also shocked by this sudden scene. The two beasts had never seen this kind of method and did not know how powerful technology was. Xing Feng was finally able to hold his head high. Last time, even the tanks were not able to do anything to these beasts. This time, the military's newly developed secret weapon was indeed extraordinary. Turning his gaze, Xing Feng stared at the thundercloud beast. Looking up from the ground, he could not see Tang Zheng on the back of the thundercloud beast. Xing Feng made a prompt decision and ordered in high spirits, "Deal with the other guy who is shooting lightning. Shoot them down for me." The soldiers immediately changed the direction of their attack. A few bullets flew towards the thundercloud beast. The thundercloud beast quickly flapped its wings. A strong wind blew, and many of the bullets were blown away. With a flash of lightning, a large net of lightning appeared in front of the thundercloud beast. When the bullets hit the net, cold air filled the air, and the net quickly disintegrated. The thundercloud beast was furious. It roared and a bolt of lightning descended from the sky. The two soldiers were instantly struck by the lightning and turned into charcoal. This completely infuriated Xing Feng. He immediately ordered, "Kill them! Kill them all!" The sky immediately turned into a battlefield. Lightning, flames, and ice intertwined. It was incomparably tragic. Because the flaming bird was already injured, it flew shakily. Its movements were obviously restricted. After taking a few more bullets, one of its wings was already broken. If it wasn't for the ice sealing his blood vessels, it would have rained blood on the spot. Even so, the firebird's combat power was greatly reduced. Bang! Suddenly, there was a muffled sound as another bullet shot towards the flaming bird. The flaming bird couldn't dodge in time and could only spit fire in response. The bullet exploded, but this time it wasn't cold air that gushed out. Instead, it was a large net that caught the flaming bird. Chirp! The flaming bird let out a shrill cry, and the large net flickered with lightning. It was obvious that the large net itself was electrified. The flaming bird kept struggling, but its struggle was getting weaker and weaker. It was obvious that the lightning was working. Seeing this, the thundercloud beast's heart trembled. Moreover, it was carrying an injured soldier on its back. It immediately flapped its wings and flew away. "Catch it!" Xing Feng saw this and hurriedly shouted. The soldiers rushed up with booster rockets under their feet, wanting to stop the thundercloud beast. However, it was all in vain. The thundercloud beast wasn't injured at all. Although it was afraid of the bullets, these people couldn't stop it if it wanted to leave. Seeing the thundercloud beast disappear into the sky, Xing Feng unwillingly stomped his feet. He scolded, "Are you all useless? You have such powerful weapons in your hands, but you can't stop a monster?" The soldiers were dejected, but no one dared to talk back. Seeing this, Kai Guibin persuaded, "Team leader, calm down. Everyone has done their best." Xing Feng couldn't disrespect his adjutant, so he nodded with a sullen face. "Don't do it again. Go back and study the tactical problem. Think clearly about what to do next when we encounter these monsters." The soldiers gratefully looked at Kai Guibin and hurriedly retreated. The flame bird fell to the ground and was dragged into a huge truck and taken away. Clearly, the flaming bird couldn't escape the fate of being used as an experiment. Although Xing Feng felt a little regretful, he was still happy. Because this time, the flaming bird was clearly more powerful than the previous ones. It had more research value. Although the Dragon Group couldn't shirk the responsibility of such a huge disturbance in the capital, Xing Feng had been a government official for many years. He knew the principle of turning bad things into good things. This could be seen as the first operation since the establishment of the Dragon Group. Furthermore, the results were quite good. He could report this to his superiors to cover up the mistakes of the Dragon Group. Thinking of this, Xing Feng's face relaxed, and there was even a trace of joy. Suddenly, his eyes narrowed as he stared at the graceful figure in the distance. Why is she here? Kai Guibin also saw Wu, and his heart skipped a beat. He said in a low voice, "Team leader, she is from the martial sect. Don't act rashly." Since they were the two officers of a special organization like the Dragon Group, they definitely knew about the three big organizations. They couldn't help but fear the martial sect. Isn't the martial sect always in charge of hunting cultivators and demonic beasts? They must have been attracted by the two demonic beasts in the sky. Kai Guibin found a reason for Wu. Xing Feng snorted coldly and said, "Last time, didn't she get together with that Tang Zheng? Didn't they say that the martial sect was ruthless to cultivators? Why is she so special to Tang Zheng? Could it be she left the martial sect?" Kai Guibin immediately denied it. "Impossible, the martial sect is not an ordinary organization, the members are all very loyal, and betrayal means death, no one would do such a thing." Xing Feng was just casually saying it, of course he knew this, but he was still brooding over Wu Jiao's attitude last time. Because, from the beginning to the end, Wu did not give him any face. Furthermore, he was also very puzzled as to why he was still alive and well even though he had leaked Tang Zheng's whereabouts last time. This didn't make sense. Only the people involved knew about the battle between Tang Zheng and Long Xianyuan. Even if Xing Feng scratched his head, he still couldn't figure out the reason behind it. In the future, when the Dragon Group grows stronger, what martial sect, it won't be a problem. If they dare to act recklessly, we will still take care of them. Xing Feng thought to himself. She did not expect the military to come over and capture a demonic beasts at lightning speed. She looked at the other party with a complicated expression. She did not know why the military's strength would increase so quickly in such a short period of time. Of course, she did not know what the power of a country was, or what the power of a country's machinery was. When this big machine felt threatened and started to operate quickly, the power that it burst out was unimaginable. Moreover, today was different from the past. Technology was different from the past. After the power of technology was displayed, it was truly hard to imagine. The secret weapon this time, those special bullets, were the result of science and technology. The corpses of werewolves obtained last time and the demon beasts captured from the 100,000 Mountains were greatly beneficial to the relevant research departments. Thus, they developed weapons that specifically targeted demon beasts and cultivators. After the bullet of this kind of freeze gun exploded, it could quickly release a cold air that was close to absolute zero, thus achieving the goal of freezing the target. Marshall stared at the freeze gun in the soldier's hand, not saying a word. In the past, she had always thought that the three big organizations were the strongest forces in the world, and even the country had to fear them. Now, it seemed that she had underestimated the power of the country. This was no longer the ancient times, and it was not an era where a few powerful individuals could control a country. Marshall seemed to be deep in thought, but he did not continue to stay. Instead, he chased after the thundercloud beast with large strides. "Stop!" Suddenly, Xing Feng shouted. Marshall stopped in his tracks, frowned and stared at him, asking, "What is it?" In the future, martial sect should not cause trouble in the capital, or else the Dragon Group will definitely not be lenient. Xing Feng felt that it was necessary to clarify his attitude to the other party. Dragon Group? Marshall looked at him suspiciously. "Yes, the Dragon Group that I lead specializes in dealing with you people who are not ordinary people. If I catch any evidence of your crimes, I will definitely punish you severely," Xing Feng said firmly. Wu rolled his eyes at him and said coldly, "Boasting shamelessly." After saying that, his figure flashed and disappeared on the spot. Xing Feng flew into a rage. What kind of attitude is that? I think it's not just cultivators. These martial artists are also the root of the problem and must be eradicated. As the saying goes, heroes use martial arts to break the law. These people's unstable nails must be removed one by one. Kai Guibin's expression was somewhat ugly as he awkwardly said, "Leader, there are many martial artists in the army, so martial artists are not the root of the problem." Xing Feng was not a martial artist, but he also realized that his words were too broad, so he added, "I'm talking about these unrestrained martial artists. Of course, I'm not referring to the elite martial artists in our army. Moreover, the research department is currently researching a new drug, which is said to be extracted from those demonic beasts. After our soldiers are injected with those drugs, they will no longer be afraid of those demonic beasts." Kai Guibin hesitantly said, "This method might not work, right?" What's wrong with that? Let me tell you, the intelligence shows that the Atlantic Empire has been researching this kind of divine medicine, and the super soldier plan has been carried out for many years, but there has been no results. But this time, our country is ahead of them, and in the future, our super soldier will definitely sweep the world, and no one will be our opponent, and our dragon group will become the most powerful organization in the world. Chapter 473. The thundercloud beast pressed down on the cloud and landed in a remote forest in the suburbs. It shrank its body again and patted Tang Zheng's face with its claws. "Tang Zheng, wake up quickly." After a while, seeing that he didn't respond, the thundercloud beast smacked its mouth in surprise. "He is injured and unconscious. What should we do? Should we save him? If we don't save him, who will deal with the 100 Faces Star Lord in the future?" This time, the thundercloud beast was ordered by Tian Chanzi to report the situation to Tangjing in the capital. On the way, it happened to encounter the flame bird. The thundercloud beast was no stranger to the flame bird. They had crossed swords in the 100,000 mountains. Seeing the flame bird acting sneakily, the thundercloud beast became suspicious. In the end, it followed the flame bird all the way to the capital. Unexpectedly, it was discovered by the flame bird. The two sides met and fought. During this time, the thundercloud beast finally figured out one thing. The 100 Faces Star Lord had already gathered most of the demonic beasts in the 100,000 mountains and called these demonic beasts master. The flame bird had submitted to the 100 Faces Star Lord. The two sides fought with all their might, resulting in lightning flashes, thunder rolls, and a storm. But who would have thought that because of this, the thundercloud beast would coincidentally meet Tang Zheng and even save him? The thundercloud beast was originally subdued by Xiao Bai and was tied to the rope of Tang Zheng. Just like what the flame bird said, if it was caught by the 100 Faces Star Lord, it would definitely lose its life. Although the thundercloud beast was a monster, its intelligence was not lower than a human's. Of course, it understood the seriousness of the matter. The flame bird sneaked into the capital. It must be up to something. I wonder what secret mission the 100 Faces Star Lord gave it? The thundercloud beast tilted its head and was puzzled. In the end, it had no choice but to focus on Tang Zheng. "Let's wake him up first." The thundercloud beast opened its small mouth and spat out an inner core. The surface of the inner core was intertwined with lightning. The inner core floated above Tang Zheng's head. A small lightning bolt jumped down from the inner core and landed on Tang Zheng's body. Lightning flashed, and the lightning immediately wrapped around Tang Zheng, crackling non-stop. However, Tang Zheng was not injured in the slightest. His expression was serene as if he was in a deep sleep. The sky was turning bright, and the lightning on the surface of the inner core was getting weaker and weaker. The thundercloud beast was obviously very tired. It opened its mouth and swallowed the inner core into its stomach. "He's fine now," the thundercloud beast muttered tiredly as it lay beside Tang Zheng. Suddenly, its ears perked up as it vigilantly looked at a large tree in the distance. "Who is it? Come out!" The thundercloud beast shouted warily. She had spent a lot of effort to find the thundercloud beast and Tang Zheng. When she saw the scene just now, she guessed that the thundercloud beast was treating Tang Zheng's injuries, so she did not appear to disturb him. "It's you!" The thunder beast wasn't unfamiliar with Marshall, just that it didn't have a good impression of him, full of hostility. Marshall lightly said, "I am not your enemy." "Aren't you from the Marshall sect?" "The Marshall sect is our enemy." The Thundercloud beast obviously knew about the matter between the Marshall sect and the cultivators, so it had a bad impression of him. Marshall remained calm. "It's true that I'm from the Marshall sect. If you hadn't saved Tang Jing, I would have killed you right now." "Hi, you want to kill me? What a joke. Are you my match?" the Thundercloud beast said in ridicule. Marshall's eyes turned cold as killing intent leaked out. He asked, "Are you sure I can't kill you now?" The Thundercloud beast's heart trembled. Just now, in order to heal Tang Jing, it had already used up too much of its innate qi. It was no longer a match for Marshall. Seeing that the Thundercloud beast was speechless, Marshall did not press on. Instead, he asked, "When will he wake up?" "Anytime," the Thundercloud beast said snappily. With that said, Tang Jing slowly opened his eyes. The attention of the man and the beast was immediately attracted. Marshall asked with concern, "Tang Jing, are you all right?" Tang Jing sat up, looked at her suspiciously and said, "I'm fine." He only felt that he had fainted in the Ye family, but why was he in the wilderness with Marshall? However, his gaze was quickly attracted by the Thundercloud beast. He asked in surprise, "Didn't you leave with Tian Chanzi and the others? Why are you here again?" "It's a long story." The Thundercloud beast sighed with emotion. "Then we'll talk about it later." Tang Jing waved his hand and stopped it. He turned to look at Marshall. "What's going on? I believe you can give me an answer." "You were betrayed by the Ye family. The Li Palace also wants to kill you," Marshall said calmly. "What?" Even though Tang Jing's nerves were thick, he was still shocked by this news. However, he knew that Marshall was not like Li Xiaotian, who was full of lies and did not speak the truth. Moreover, there was no need for her to lie to him. "I fainted in the Ye family. If it wasn't for the Ye family betraying me, how could I have left the Ye family and appeared here?" Tang Jing muttered to himself. "I'm sure you've already guessed it. It's Yi Tianming," Marshall added. Tang Jing's brows flashed with killing intent and said in a deep voice, "Other than him, Yi Dingdong's family of 3 will definitely not betray me." "You're quite confident. What about Yi Xuanji? Is he involved?" Tang Jing asked. "I don't know about that." Tang Jing started to think. The situation was getting more and more complicated. It seemed that his relationship with the Ye family had really come to an end. What should he do? Go back to the Ye family and denounce them? What a joke, the other party could directly deny. Moreover, Yi Dingdong's family of 3 sandwiched in the middle was the most difficult. Yi Dingdang was deeply in love with him. How could he push her family into a dilemma? Thinking of this, he suppressed the anger in his heart and decided to temporarily ignore the Ye family. The Ye family was a harmless problem, but now the Li Palace wanted to kill him. Wasn't this kind of thing done by the Marshall organization? When did the Li Palace start to meddle in other people's business? "I'm sure it was Li Xiaotian who personally took action?" Tang Jing asked. "Your guess is very accurate. I even suspect that you were unconscious before." Marshall joked. "But it was repelled by you." "It wasn't me." Marshall shook her head and pointed to the shrunken Thundercloud beast. "It was him. Although you were unconscious for a short time, many things happened. I believe you will be interested." Marshall did not hide anything. Not only did she tell him about the battle between the Thundercloud beast and the Flame Bird, she also emphasized the performance of Xing Feng's team. Dragon Group. Tang Jing frowned deeply and exclaimed, "The officials actually established such an organization, and they even have the new weapon you described. Even such a powerful demonic beasts like the Blazing Bird was captured alive. Truly a scholar who has been away for 3 days, I have to look at you in a new light." He still remembered the scene when he met Xing Feng in Dianan. At that time, he was in complete control of the situation. He did not expect that the officials would not catch him, but instead create this dragon group. It seems that not only do I have to be careful of the Li Palace, I can't even lower my guard against the officials. Tang Jing rubbed his nose and laughed self-deprecatingly. "Are you afraid? As long as you return to the Marshall organization with me, no one can hurt you," Marshall advised. Tang Jing laughed involuntarily. You are very good at persuading people. If I go to the martial organization, maybe no one can deal with me. Of course. Don't look at how happy these people are. Would anyone dare to go to the martial organization and ask for someone? That's purely because they don't want to live. Marshall said confidently. Tang Jing obviously understood this point, but he still shook his head and refused without hesitation. Thank you for your good intentions. Marshall's face dimmed, but then his fighting spirit rose. I said that I would wait until the day you go to the martial organization. I will not give up. Tang Jing shrugged, speechless. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave first. Tang Jing said. Now that the pool of water in the capital has been blown up, be careful not to turn it into a big wave that will push you to the bottom. Also, Chu Chongyang is dead. The balance of power in the capital for so many years will quickly be reshuffled. You better pray for yourself. Marshall reminded. Thank you for your reminder. Tang Jing did not even turn his head. The thundercloud beast quickly followed, and when he was sure that Marshall had been left far behind, he asked in a low voice, Thundercloud beast, how are Tian Chanzi and the witch clan? They have already found the monastery. The small country over there is in turmoil. Whoever is strong will be able to stand firm. No one is their match. The thundercloud beast said proudly. Tang Jing believed in their strength. Moreover, with Tian Chanzi, who had lived for thousands of years, dealing with them, he could indeed guarantee their safety. The 100 Faces Star Lord has already gathered all the demonic beasts in the 10,000 huge mountains. Although I don't know what he plans to do, it's definitely not a good thing. The thundercloud beast said. Tang Jing's heart trembled. The name 100 Faces Star Lord meant unknown danger. Since he had gathered all the demonic beasts, then the world would truly be in chaos. However, Tang Jing's current strength was still lacking, so it was of no use. If necessary, we can leak some information to the officials or the martial organization and let them investigate the 100 Faces Star Lord. Tang Jing pondered. Thundercloud beast, go back and tell Tian Chanzi to act according to the plan. For the time being, hold back the troops and accumulate strength. When necessary in the future, we will take advantage of the situation. Do you understand? Tang Jing instructed. Yes, I understand. However, Tian Chanzi has been talking about finding the heaven and earth obsidian all day long. I wonder if you have any clues? The thundercloud beast asked casually. Tang Jing's heart thumped. Of course he had clues about the heaven and earth obsidian. Who knew how many pieces were buried in the imperial city? There were also some in the southern Sea Dragon Palace. However, he was not prepared to tell this secret to anyone, not even Tian Chanzi. He understood the importance of the heaven and earth obsidian. This was related to the secret of the heavens beyond heaven. It was also related to the problem of whether or not the cultivators would return. Tian Chanzi wholeheartedly wanted the cultivators to return. However, Tang Jing was still indecisive. He was afraid that the cultivators would set off a reign of terror in this world. The heaven and earth obsidian must be in my hands first. I can only take it out when necessary. Tang Jing made up his mind and decided to continue keeping this secret. Tian Chanzi also asked me to tell you another thing. He is worried that you will encounter a lot of trouble in the capital. Furthermore, the 4 symbols Venerable and Xiaobai will not be able to make a move most of the time, so he found you a helper. The thundercloud beast said. Helper? Yes, he said this helper is called Huang Ziyang. Huang Ziyang. Tang Jing suddenly realized. Chapter 474. After the thundercloud beast left, Tang Jing also understood the problem with his helper, Huang Ziyang. Back then, Tian Chanzi did not bring Huang Ziyang out of the capital, but left him at a pass 100 kilometers north of the capital. This pass was a place that the military would fight for in ancient times, and only in modern times did it gradually become desolate. However, because that pass had experienced too many wars, countless people had died, and the Yin Qi was dense. Even in broad daylight, the Yin Qi was dense, and there were few people there. This place just so happened to be Huang Ziyang's blessed land. Huang Ziyang had been turned into a puppet by Tian Chanzi, and the denser the yin qi was, the faster his cultivation would increase. This time, he had been left at that pass for such a long time, so he didn't know how much his strength had grown. Tian Chanzi reckoned that Tang Jing lacked helpers, so he sent a letter to him to bring Huang Xiang out. Tomorrow is the final exam. After the exam, we'll go to that pass. Tang Zheng returned to school to prepare for the final exam, but at this moment, the Yen family welcomed an uninvited guest. Yen Patian personally welcomed them at the entrance. It was extremely grand. Yen Qishan and Yen Luyun stood on his left and right, but Yen Qingyi was not present. Normally, she would be cultivating in the Taoist temple. Li Xiaotian strolled over. Her face was as calm as an ancient well. No one could see through her thoughts. "Saintess, your presence brings light to my humble abode." Yen Patian greeted him with a smile. Logically speaking, with Li Xiaotian's cultivation, he would not be able to withstand such a huge battle formation from the Yen clan. However, she was the holy maiden of Li Palace, and if nothing unexpected happened, she would inherit the position of Palace Master of Li Palace in the future. Furthermore, the Yen family had always had a close relationship with Li Palace, so of course they would show the importance they deserved. Li Xiaotian nodded slightly, but did not say much. The guest and host passed through the layers of courtyards and arrived at the main hall to take their seats. Li Xiaoan went straight to the point. "Elder Yen, I have something to trouble you with this time." "Holy maiden, there's no harm in saying so. Yen family being able to share the burden of the Li Palace is our honor." Yen Patian said amiably. "Help me kill Tang Zheng." Li Xiaotian said murderously. The three generations of the Yen family all revealed shocked expressions at the same time. Yen Patian hurriedly restrained the strange expression on his face and asked, "Could it be that this person provoked you, holy maiden?" Li Xiaotian shook his head. "This person will be a big problem in the future. We have to get rid of him before he spreads his wings." The Yen family had previously heeded Yen Qingyi's suggestion and intended to help Tang Zheng, but they had not expected that the Li Palace would actually make this decision, which was completely contrary to the Yen family's decision. Yen Qishan and Yen Liuyun's expressions were somewhat unnatural. This time, the Yen family was in a difficult situation. Yen Patian remained calm and said, "Tang Zheng is no longer the same as before. Chu Chongyang has just been eliminated by him, and his morale is at its peak. I'm afraid this matter will not be easy to handle." It was precisely because of his battle with Chu Chongyang that he was severely injured that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. However, right now he is together with the martial sect, which is why it is somewhat difficult to handle. Li Xiaotian retorted. If the 12 palaces had not been completely destroyed, she would not have needed to ask the Yen family for help. At this moment, it was already too late to return to the Li Palace to get reinforcements. Moreover, if she did not complete this mission, she would definitely be reprimanded by the Asgard Master when she returned. How could she return empty-handed like this? The relationship between the Yen family and the Li Palace was not shallow. Asking the Yen family for help was giving them a chance. The Yen family would definitely seize this opportunity impatiently and deepen their relationship with the Li Palace. But unexpectedly, Yen Patian did not immediately agree. Instead, he became silent. Li Xiaotian looked at him in astonishment, and the atmosphere instantly became strange. "You don't agree?" Yen Patian did not comment and said, "Holy maiden, since you have no way to deal with him, what can we do?" This was clearly an excuse, even a fool could hear it. Yen Qishan turned pale with fright. He did not expect his father to reject Li Xiaotian so firmly. This would definitely harm the relationship between the Yen family and the Li Palace. "Father!" Yen Qishan impatiently called out, wanting to remind his father. Yen Qishan purposely glanced at Yen Qishan. Yen Qishan's heart trembled, and he subconsciously kept quiet. Obviously, Yen Patian had already made up his mind. He actually did not hesitate to reject the request of the Li Palace and wholeheartedly protected Tang Zheng. This was truly a bold move. Yen Qishan fell into a state of panic. He did not know why his father would actually make such a huge bet because of an illusory prophecy in the future. Li Xiaotian's gaze was like lightning. He saw the father and son's reactions one by one. He was furious in his heart and asked with a cold face, "Are you purposely avoiding it?" Yen Padian said with a fake smile, "Holy Maiden's words are too serious, we really don't have the strength to catch him. Actually, I think that dealing with Tang Jing, the Li Palace, is still very easy. Why bother with our help, don't you think so?" "I will tell your attitude to Asgard Mistress. She will judge for herself." Li Xiaotian never expected that he would be rejected here. Yen Padian sighed and said helplessly, "Our intentions towards the Li Palace will never change. I hope that Asgard Mistress will know our painstaking efforts. She will naturally know. Your Yen family is really good." Li Xiaotian stood up and walked out. Yen Qishan immediately followed and said, "Holy Maiden, I'll send you off." After the two of them left, Yen Luyun asked suspiciously, "Grandfather, why did we reject the Li Palace's request? If we don't refuse, are we really going to send someone to kill Tang Zheng?" Yen Padian asked as he looked at him with a burning gaze. Yen Liuyun's heart trembled. He knew that this was the old man testing him, but he was still unable to see through the old man's thoughts, so he probed, "Grandfather, if we don't deal with Tang Jing, then we will offend the Li Palace. This might not be a good deal, right? You said that even the Holy Maiden of the Li Palace had to seek help from the outside, and the Yen family rashly rushed forward. What benefits could they possibly gain?" Yen Padian asked. "This. It is indeed strange. If the Li Palace wants to deal with Tang Zheng, why would they need someone else's help?" Yen Luyun revealed a puzzled expression. "So, we have to use our brains and think about it. This matter is not as simple as it seems." Yen Potion's gaze was like a torch as he nodded his head and said. Yen Luyun seemed to be deep in thought. Yen Qishan walked back and asked anxiously, "Father, why did you reject her? Was it really necessary to tie the Yen family and Tang Jing together? This is offending the Li Palace, not as simple as offending the other families." Yen Padian shook his head and said, You are really muddle-headed. How can I be at ease and hand over this huge family to you in the future?" However, Yen Qishan did not compromise and argued, "Father, in any case, I don't understand this matter. At this time, befriending Tang Jing is far more dangerous than rejecting the Li Palace." Yen Padian slapped the chair and shouted, "Short-sighted, let me ask you what Tang Jing did, which one of you can do it?" Yen Qishan and Yen Luyun looked at each other in dismay, but they were unable to answer. They were indeed unable to do what Tang Jing had done. But after doing all this, he became the target of public criticism. Now, even the Li Palace sees him as a thorn in their side. Yen Qishan reminded, "Then do you remember what the Holy Maiden said just now? Tang Zheng and the martial sect were together. Although the martial sect hated cultivators to the bones, they obviously did not plan to deal with Tang Zheng. Furthermore, the intelligence showed that martial sect had always been in contact with Tang Zheng. This showed the martial sect's attitude towards Tang Zheng. For a cultivator to be able to make the martial sect have such an attitude, do you think it's simple?" Yen Padian asked with a powerful voice. Yen Qishan was speechless. After a long while, he said unwillingly, "But it wasn't easy for us to get on the Li Palace's good side. Now, it seems that all our previous efforts will be ruined." Yen Padian let out a long sigh and said, "If you gain something, you will definitely lose something. I have a feeling that Qing Yi's prophecy might really be correct." Yen Qishan's heart skipped a beat. If that prophecy was true, then Tang Zheng would save tens of thousands of people from water and fire in the future. It was hard to imagine what kind of turmoil would occur in the world. In short, pay close attention to the situation in the capital. Last night, even demonic beasts appeared. Although the officials have already refuted the rumors, I feel that the day when cultivators truly enter the eyes of the public is not far away. Yen Padian analyzed. Regarding the strange phenomenon in the sky last night, the officials had released a rumor early in the morning, saying that it was the special effects of a film company shooting a movie and not some ferocious beast. Furthermore, the video on the internet had been completely deleted. Although it was still a hot topic, the situation had been temporarily under control. Just as Tang Jing returned to school, Yi Tianlei's call came, asking about Tang Zheng's situation. Tang Jing also mentioned the matter of him being betrayed last night. After hearing this, Yi Tianlei was extremely furious and swore that he would definitely go and settle the score with Yi Tianming. Regarding this, Tang Jing did not hold much hope, nor did he expect to be able to do anything to Yi Tianming. Moreover, Tang Jing had too many things to do right now, so he did not have the time to deal with him for the time being. Hearing that Tang Jing was safe and sound under the King of Medicine's treatment, Tang Jing was relieved. However, when he heard that the King of Medicine was still in the Ye family, he had an idea and asked Yi Tianlei to tell the King of Medicine to come to Yenqing University for a chat. He believed that this old man would definitely keep the appointment. Sure enough, in the afternoon, the King of Medicine found him. Although the King of Medicine already knew about Tang Jing's identity as a cultivator, he did not take it to heart at all. What he cared about was the problems in medicine. As for other disputes, he did not care about them at all. Therefore, he gladly accepted Tang Jing's invitation. There was too much medical knowledge on Tang Jing that he wanted to know. For example, the life-continuing pill was a secret that he wanted to know. King of Medicine, I want to ask you for a favor. Tang Jing said straightforwardly, I want to sell the life-continuing pill. The life-continuing pill was too magical. If Tang Jing directly sold it to the public, many people would doubt its authenticity. However, if the King of Medicine handled this matter, no one would doubt that his authority in this area was much stronger than Tang Jing's. Moreover, the King of Medicine knew too many people who needed this thing and could afford it, so he had to be the middleman. Chapter 475. The King of Medicine never forgot about the life-continuing pill. When he heard that Tang Jing wanted to sell the life-continuing pill, he immediately said, Can I buy one first? If it was before, he definitely wouldn't believe that there was such a miraculous medicine like the life-continuing pill in this world, but he saw with his own eyes the miracle of the life-continuing pill on Yishuanji and Nana, so of course he wouldn't doubt it. On the contrary, he couldn't wait to research this miraculous medicine and figure out how it works. Tang Jing couldn't help but laugh. He guessed what he was thinking and generously said, I can give one to you. Really? The King of Medicine opened his eyes wide in disbelief. His breathing couldn't help but quicken. If he had such a miraculous medicine, he would definitely be able to research a lot more valuable things. Of course it's real. One life-continuing pill can extend one's life by 10 years. Why do you want to sell such a precious thing? The King of Medicine asked strangely. This miraculous medicine is of course treasured. How can it be sold so casually? To raise money. Tang Jing said truthfully. Raise money? The King of Medicine heard this answer and was dumbfounded. The King of Medicine has saved countless people in his life, not only high officials, but also ordinary people, but he didn't ask for too much money. He was only interested in the art of qi and huang, and money was just a worldly possession to him. It was just a condition to ensure his livelihood. It was not a necessity. So, he couldn't understand why Tang Jing would use a miraculous medicine like the life-continuing pill to exchange for money. I still have some money. If you need it, I'll give it to you. The King of Medicine said warmly. Tang Jing smiled and said, The money I need is not a little bit, but hundreds of millions. What do you need so much money for? For business. The King of Medicine bitterly shook his head and said, I don't understand you young people. I'm only interested in medical matters. But the life-continuing pill is a priceless treasure. There is no market for it, so there will definitely be people willing to pay for it. I don't know much about this. How can we increase the price of the life-continuing pill? Tang Jing humbly asked. Nothing is precious when there are too many of them, and this is especially true for the life-prolonging pill. If you sell it like normal pills, you won't be able to fully display the value of the life-prolonging pill. You might even be tarnishing this godly medicine. The King of Medicine explained. Tang Jing secretly nodded his head. The rarer something was, the more valuable it was. This sentence was true everywhere. Of course you can't sell such a precious item casually. Besides, you're trying to raise money, so the highest bidder should get it. An auction is a good choice. Auction. Tang Jing couldn't help but recall the auction in the ordinary balance courtyard. He had obtained the 9 revolving pill furnace from that auction. That's right. In a few days, there will be a high-end auction in the capital. I have some connections with the organizer of the auction, so I can let them handle this. The King of Medicine said confidently. Tang Zheng was overjoyed. That would be the best. I'm really grateful to you. If the King of Medicine didn't personally endorse the life-prolonging pill, there would definitely be many people who would question its authenticity. Moreover, Yixuanji and Nana wouldn't be able to explain the miraculous effects of the life-prolonging pill, so the value of the life-prolonging pill would be greatly reduced. But it was different now. Those rich and powerful people would definitely scramble like ducks and fight over it with all their might. The King of Medicine smiled and said, I should be thanking you. You let me see this godly medicine in my lifetime. Moreover, you gave me one. I don't even know what to use to exchange it with you. Since it's a gift to you, there's no need to exchange it. Then I'll accept it. But I have a question. If I don't ask, I won't be happy. How many life-prolonging pills do you actually have? How many do you think should be auctioned? Tang Zheng asked back. The King of Medicine's pupils shrunk as he heard the hidden meaning in those words. 10 is the best. If from what I hear you say, you have quite a few of these things. Or perhaps you don't even need to worry about the amount of life-prolonging pills. Tang Zheng smiled reservedly and nodded his head under the King of Medicine's stunned gaze. Could it be that this godly medicine can be mass-produced? The King of Medicine's heart already jumped to his throat as he asked in disbelief. It can't be mass-produced, but the amount is definitely not small. The life-prolonging pill may be difficult for others, but it isn't too difficult for me. Tang Zheng replied. Then how many do you have right now? I don't have a single one. Could it be that you don't have any in stock? Of course, the life-prolonging pill is still missing an ingredient called the heaven-fragrant flower. I don't know where to find it. Tang Zheng temporarily did not have the time to return to ordinary Balance Mountain to find the heaven-fragrant flower. The King of Medicine's eyes suddenly lit up as he said, Heaven-fragrant flower, you're saying that the life-prolonging pill's ingredient is the heaven-fragrant flower? AI, why didn't I think that the heaven-fragrant flower would have such a miraculous effect? The King of Medicine impatiently wanted to obtain a life-prolonging pill to study, so he said, I can help you get the heaven-fragrant flower as long as you quickly refine the life-prolonging pill. Tang Zheng was overjoyed at the unexpected good news. He originally wanted to go to the famous mountains near the capital to take a look and see if he could find the heaven-fragrant flower. He never thought that after searching high and low for it, he would find it without any effort. The King of Medicine was actually able to get him a lot of heaven-fragrant flowers. Then the problem of refining the life-prolonging pill would be easily solved. Ancient books have recorded the various uses of the heaven-fragrant flower. Because of this, one time I accidentally found a few dozen stalks of heaven-fragrant flower. I transplanted them into my medicinal garden, but I never found a use for the heaven-fragrant flower. I never thought that all of this was in preparation for the present. The King of Medicine rambled on. Tang Zheng suddenly realized that this was really too convenient for him. It would be impolite to refuse. Can I come and observe how you refine the life-prolonging pill? The King of Medicine asked with a bashful face. You provided the heaven-fragrant flower, so of course you can come and observe. Tang Zheng did not hide anything. He was also not afraid that the King of Medicine would learn it. This was because the average person would not be able to learn it. This was his unique alchemy technique. Even other cultivators may not be able to completely understand his alchemy technique. The King of Medicine danced with joy. He was so happy that he was like an old child. His excitement was overflowing with words. Then can we begin now? There isn't enough time today. Since you have the heaven-fragrant flower, then you should also prepare the other ingredients. Tang Zheng did not hide anything and directly told the King of Medicine all of the ingredients for the life-prolonging pill, asking him to prepare them. After listening to the complete prescription for the life-prolonging pill, the King of Medicine gasped for breath. He could not stop his heart from beating wildly. He had the illusion that he was about to suffocate. This prescription was a priceless treasure. The King of Medicine stared at the prescription with shining eyes. He looked at it again and again, as if he wanted to firmly engrave it in his mind. After a long time, the king of medicine reluctantly put the prescription into his pocket and finally let out a sigh of relief. The king of medicine was very grateful towards Tang Zheng's magnanimous action. He also admired Tang Zheng from the bottom of his heart. This made him even more determined to make Tang Zheng's auction perfect. In fact, Tang Zheng certainly knew that this prescription was extraordinary. However, without the assistance of true energy and true fire, the ingredients would still be the same. They would not have much effect. It was impossible for an ordinary person to replicate it. I can prepare these ingredients immediately. When will you start refining? 2 days later. I have to take the final exam in 2 days. Okay, I will definitely be ready in 2 days. I will leave first. Seeing the king of medicine leave in such a hurry, Tang Zheng's face curved. It seemed that the money Mu Hongyan and the others needed was solved. In the next 2 days, Tang Zheng was completely immersed in the final exam. Yenqing University was full of talents, and there was no lack of geniuses. Of course, he could not be careless. However, his ability to sharpen his spear at the last minute was extraordinary. Therefore, after a few rounds of exams, he felt very good about himself. After leaving the examination room, he was surrounded by the members of Room 502. The winter vacation was coming soon. Everyone had to go home and find their mothers. Before leaving, they organized a dinner party. There were a lot of people at this dinner party. Except for Yi Dingdang, who was still recuperating at home, the members of Room 502 and Yi Dingdang's roommates, and even Feng Yong from another school were called. As soon as Feng Yong saw Tang Zheng, he could not wait to shout. He hugged Tang Zheng and shouted, "Boss, did you abandon me? I haven't seen you since I came back from Dianan. I miss you so much." When the others saw this, they laughed. "Lao Sen, you two are gay. Do you want us to leave for a while?" "Go, you guys are gay. Boss and I have the purest friendship," Feng Yong retorted. However, Li Fangfei had a different opinion. "Feng Yong, did you do something to let Hao Dan down recently that made her angry? I see that she's been sulking all day." The moment these words came out, everyone's attention was attracted to Feng Yong. Sinosaurus hugged Feng Yong's shoulder and chuckled. "Feng Yong, you can't have gone outside to attract bees and butterflies, right? Amazing, you're preparing to be on par with Lao San." Tang Zheng rolled his eyes speechlessly. What did he mean by, on par with him? He was really being shot even when he was lying down. "Feng Yong, our Hao Dan is so cute. I don't know how many people are chasing after her, but she rejected them all and focused on you. If you dare to attract bees and butterflies outside, we will definitely not let you off," Li Fangfei said indignantly. Feng Yong shouted with a face full of bitterness, "I'm wronged. I'm even more wronged than Do Yi. I'm wholeheartedly devoted to Hao Dan. Furthermore, I'm so busy every day that my feet don't touch the ground. How would I have the time to attract bees and butterflies? Then why is Hao Dan so sulking all day? Hao Dan, you tell us, what bad things did he do? Today will be the judge for you," Li Fangfei said aggressively. Tang Zheng's interest was piqued. From his point of view, Feng Yong was not a half-hearted person. Furthermore, this concerned the happiness of his brothers, so he could not be careless. Thus he said, "Hao Dan, tell us the truth. We'll be the judge for you." Feng Yong saw that Tang Zheng also said the same thing and cried out that he was wronged. However, after being glared at by Tang Zheng, he obediently lowered his head. Hao Dan glanced at Feng Yong and hesitated for a long time before saying shyly, "He often goes to those shady places." "Shady places?" Everyone was dumbstruck. Wang Shiji exclaimed. "Feng Yong, you can't be going to the brothels and looking for women to discuss their physiological problems, right?" Sinosaurus cried out. "Feng Yong, Hao Dan is so beautiful. You actually went to those places when you have such a beautiful girlfriend. Is there something wrong with your head?" Li Fangfei and Lu Xian's faces flashed with embarrassment as they scolded him. "Feng Yong, you are indeed not attracting bees and butterflies. However, this problem is more serious. Do you know? Are you worthy of Hao Dan? I'm not." Feng Yong shouted, his face and ears turning red. You must believe me. How can I be that kind of person? Boss, we've known each other for so long. You must believe me. Chapter 476. Looking at Feng Yong's flushed face and anxious expression, Tang Jing advised, I still believe in Feng Yong. There must be a misunderstanding here. Everything will be fine after we clear things up. What's there to say about going to those places? How Dan, did you see him go there with your own eyes? How Dan's eyes were red as she nodded gently. He didn't just go to one place. He went to many places. How Dan, you've really misunderstood me. Yes, I've been to a lot of sex shops and even some red light districts, but I haven't done anything bad. I went there for work. Feng Yong defended himself. Work? Everyone was dumbfounded. Li Fangfei snorted, work? What kind of place is the red light district? Do you think we don't know? Isn't your explanation a little too unreasonable? Tang Zheng's heart skipped a beat as he guessed the reason. He couldn't help but reveal a relieved smile as he waved his hand, indicating for everyone to calm down. I think I know what's going on. Feng Yong really didn't do anything bad. I also believe that he didn't do anything to let Hao Dan down. He really went there for work. Everyone turned pale with fright as they looked at Tang Zheng in disbelief. Fatty, don't hide it anymore. Tell everyone the truth. Tang Zheng advised. Feng Yong stuttered for a long time before saying, all right, I'll tell you the truth. But let me tell you, don't laugh at me if you hear it. Otherwise, I'll ignore you guys in the future. Let's see what kind of flowers you can come up with. Li Fangfei said in disbelief. Hao Dan also looked at Feng Yong with resentment and pouted her lips. I went there to do market research. I went to many sex toy stores and even the red light district to research the market situation of sex toys. Because these places are the most direct consumers of these products, they have a direct guiding effect. Feng Yong mustered up his courage and said, sex products? This was a topic that even married people would try to avoid, let alone these university students. The few girls' cheeks instantly turned red as they spat and said hatefully, you still say you didn't do anything bad. How can you be a good person if you blindly think about this all day? You're being wrongly accused. Feng Yong pulled a long face. You can ask the boss. My family produces sex toys. My dad has been asking me to investigate the market situation in Beijing. Isn't the holiday coming soon? If I don't do some research, how can I report back to Dad? Tang Zheng couldn't help but laugh and said, Fatty, this is what you get for not telling Hao Dan clearly in advance. If you had told Hao Dan clearly, would there still be so many misunderstandings? I was afraid she would misunderstand, so I didn't tell her. I didn't think she would find out. Feng Yong said dejectedly. When the others saw that Feng Yong did not seem to be lying, they asked in surprise, Feng Yong, is your family really in this business? Of course. Don't be fooled by Fatty's low profile. Let me tell you, he is a rich second generation. His family is very rich, Tang Jing joked. Sinosaurus grabbed Feng Yong's shoulder and laughed loudly. We always talk about rich second generation. So there is a ready-made one beside us. Rich second generation student, do you want to bleed a bit and treat us commoners to a meal? Feng Yong was a bit embarrassed as he scratched his head and said, my family is just doing a small business. But your family's business is too special. The few girls said embarrassedly. There's no other way. My dad went into this business back then. It's impossible for him to change careers. Don't look at this business. It doesn't sound good, but the profits are great. Feng Yong's eyes gradually lit up like a profiteer promoting his family's business. Okay, don't say any more. Can't eating shut your mouth? Hao Dan was a girl after all. Her face was bright red as she picked up a piece of fat and stuffed it into Feng Yong's mouth. Feng Yong laughed and scratched his head. He quickly swallowed it and said, I won't say any more. But you shouldn't go too often. If other students see you, it won't be good. Hao Dan said, I won't go in the future. This research is already over. I can go home and report back. Feng Yong said cheerfully. Let's talk about something happy. Let me tell you, my hometown is in the northeast. The winter there is beautiful. It's a world of ice and snow. What is called the northern scenery? Thousands of miles of snow. You will know when you go to my hometown. Sinosaurus immediately livened up the atmosphere and talked about his hometown. It's winter. It's too cold. Who would go? It'll freeze people to death. There's heating. What's there to be afraid of? Moreover, there are many mysterious legends in my hometown. In the past few years, there have been many plots about my hometown. So many people have gone there to explore. Oh, what kind of mysterious legends do you have there? Tang Jing casually asked. Have you heard of shamans? Sinosaurus asked mysteriously. Isn't it just dancing? I heard that the Northeast has a lot of these kinds of swindlers. Several people said disapprovingly. Sinosaurus curled his lips and said, dancing is mostly a lie. But shamans are different. I heard from the elders in the village that shamans can really invite gods to possess their bodies and thus have all kinds of magical powers. Have you seen it before? I would like to see it, but I don't have the opportunity. Sinosaurus said disappointedly. Tang Zheng's heart moved. Could it be that shaman techniques were also related to cultivators? However, Sinosaurus didn't know too many details and also had no way to verify it. Everyone chatted and laughed. When the meal ended, some people directly boarded the train home. The campus suddenly became deserted. Tang Zheng wasn't in a hurry to leave. He first went to Lu Qingmei's house to see Nana and Lu Qingmei. He made an appointment with Nana to bring her back to ordinary balance to see her mother in a few days. Then, he went to the King of Medicine's medicinal garden in the suburbs. The King of Medicine had already been waiting for a long time. When he saw Tang Jing, he hurriedly welcomed him in. There were usually a few medicine farmers in the medicinal garden, but the King of Medicine had already temporarily asked them to leave. This was because refining the life-continuing pill was an important matter. Unrelated people must stay away. Come take a look. This is the heavenly fragrant flower. Is it enough to refine 10 life-continuing pills? The King of Medicine pointed at the 10 delicate little flowers in the medicinal garden and asked. It's more than enough. In the past, one heavenly fragrant flower was able to refine 3 life-continuing pills. Now that Tang Zheng's cultivation was higher and his attainments in alchemy were deeper, one heavenly fragrant flower should be able to refine more life-continuing pills. The King of Medicine let out a sigh of relief and happily said, That's good. I have already prepared according to your request. Please. In a quiet secret room, the King of Medicine stared at the 9 revolving pill furnace that appeared out of thin air. His heart couldn't help but fiercely beat. This was a new field that he had never encountered before. The nervousness and excitement in his heart was indescribable. Tang Zheng was familiar with the process. His finger pointed at the 9 revolving pill furnace and a ball of true fire flew into the furnace and wrapped around the herbs. In an instant, the essence of the medicinal herbs was refined and turned into a ball of water droplets. The King of Medicine's mouth almost fell to the ground. This was alchemy? It was completely different from his understanding of alchemy. This method was much faster and more mysterious. The King of Medicine's mouth was bitter. He gradually understood how unrealistic it was for him to want to learn alchemy. There was no way for him to replicate such a method. Even the spell of true fire left him in the dust. Tang Zheng calmed himself down and concentrated on refining the pills. He casually tossed the 3 heavenly fragrant flowers into the 9 revolving pill furnace. A strange fragrance instantly filled the entire secret chamber. The 9 revolving pill furnace quickly rotated. The carvings on the furnace were very lifelike. It was too much for the eyes to take in. Traces of spiritual energy poured into the furnace from all directions. This is too magical. The King of Medicine finally couldn't help but mutter to himself. Actually, as long as you know the principle, it's not that difficult. Tang Jing said with a smile. It's really not difficult for those who know, but those who don't know. Everyone treats the life-continuing pill as a godly medicine. I never thought that the refining process would be so simple. The King of Medicine sighed. The corners of Tang Zheng's mouth rose as he smiled. After a long time, the 9 revolving pill furnaces' rotational speed slowed down. The dazzling true fire was also extinguished. Inside the 9 revolving pill furnace, a dense fog rose up. It was impossible to see the exact situation inside the furnace. This was a scene that didn't occur last time. It was clear that Tang Zheng's alchemy skills had improved. Tang Zheng's face lit up with joy. Even though he hadn't seen the real result, he could already smell the refreshing fragrance inside the furnace. Just a light sniff would make him feel as if he was floating in the air. This time the life-continuing pill's quality is even higher. I'm afraid it won't just extend life by 10 years. Tang Zheng pondered. Is it done? The king of medicine nervously asked. Tang Zheng nodded. With a wave of his hand, a gust of wind blew into the furnace. The dense fog dissipated and the scene inside the furnace was revealed. 15 life-continuing pills were quietly lying at the bottom of the furnace. This was the king of medicine's first time seeing the life-continuing pill. His breathing involuntarily quickened as his eyes stared straight at the life-continuing pill. He cried out in surprise, "I've finally seen it. I've finally seen the life-continuing pill." Seeing his crazed appearance, Tang Zheng couldn't help but laugh. He took out the life-continuing pill and gave 11 to the king of medicine. He said, "These are for you. 10 of them will be auctioned and the other one is for you." The king of medicine stood there in a daze, forgetting to react. Tang Zheng directly used a small bottle to store the life-continuing pill and placed it in the king of medicine's palm. He said, "Take it. Don't be in a daze. The life-continuing pill can only be refined this way. Normal methods cannot be done." A miracle. This is a miracle. The king of medicine's lips trembled as he spoke intermittently. Suddenly, his eyes lit up as he stared straight at Tang Zheng. "I've lived for most of my life and thought that I had already made some achievements in the field of medicine. Now I understand that I was just a frog in a well. This is the way I've always dreamed of." After pausing for a moment, the king of medicine's eyes became even more passionate. Tang Zheng felt as if he was looking at a great beauty and couldn't help but laugh. Chapter 477. Even though Tang Zheng had been calm for a long time, when he saw this scene he was really shocked. He subconsciously took 2 steps back and asked, "King of medicine, what are you doing? Get up quickly." The king of medicine looked determined and did not move. He said, "Tang Zheng, I want to be your apprentice and ask you to teach me the art of alchemy." Tang Zheng was stunned. The king of medicine actually wanted to be his apprentice. No one would believe it if he said it. The king of medicine was already the top figure in the country, but he wanted to be Tang Zheng's apprentice. This would probably be the most explosive news in the circle. Looking at his burning and determined eyes, Tang Zheng instantly understood his thoughts. The king of medicine was a person with a pure mind. He tirelessly pursued the way of curing diseases and saving people, so he did not hesitate to be Tang Zheng's apprentice. Tang Zheng quickly grabbed the king of medicine's arm and gently lifted it. The king of medicine did not want to get up, but he was lifted up by a strong force. The king of medicine quickly said, "I'm serious. I really want to be your apprentice." Tang Zheng did not know whether to laugh or cry. He said, "Don't make it difficult for me. If I knew you would do this, I would have asked you for help. No, this is what I really want. Please help me. But you have been famous for a long time. If I take you as my apprentice, won't it make the world laugh and laugh at me? It will also damage your reputation." Tang Zheng persuaded earnestly. The king of medicine did not appreciate it and said, "What's the use of that false reputation? What I seek is profound medical skills, not undeserved fame." Seeing that he was so stubborn, Tang Zheng took out his trump card and said in a deep voice, "You also know that I am a cultivator, and this is the world of martial artists. In this world, you don't know how many people want to take my life. The Chu family, the Song family, and even the Ye family are all eyeing me covetously. They can't wait to eat me alive. If you worship me as your teacher, you will only bring disaster to yourself." So what if it's a monk-killing disaster? As the ancient saying goes, if one hears the Tao in the morning, one can die in the evening. As long as he could learn alchemy, so what if he became a cultivator? Moreover, I believe that the distinction between cultivators and martial artists in this world is superfluous. There are thousands of different kinds of people, and it is impossible to make everyone the same. Therefore, whether it is society or individuals, they should be tolerant, and cultivators and martial artists are the most feasible way. Hearing the king of medicine's eloquent words, Tang Zheng's face became serious. These words undoubtedly expressed his inner thoughts. The fundamental reason why Tang Zheng was unwilling to let cultivators return to this world was that cultivators and martial artists were not compatible. A great war was bound to break out between the two sides, and at that time, many people would lose their lives. He often wondered why the two sides could not coexist. This was his point of view as a contemporary. He was a person who started cultivating halfway, and from the beginning to the end, he had never been instilled with the idea that cultivators and martial artists were incompatible. Therefore, his mentality was the most tolerant. King of medicine, are you really not afraid that after becoming a cultivator, you will be ostracized and hunted down? Tang Zheng asked particularly seriously. The king of medicine shook his head firmly. Of course not, I am willing to become a cultivator. This was the first time a martial artist was willing to become a cultivator. The king of medicine's martial arts cultivation was not weak, and if he practiced magic, it would definitely be very difficult. Unexpectedly, the king of medicine still did not care, and said confidently, "In my life, the one thing I am least afraid of is difficulty. The more difficult it is, the more I will face it. Master, please accept a bow from your disciple." Saying this, he broke free from his hands, and with a plop, knelt in front of Tang Zheng. Without waiting for Tang Zheng to object, he directly kowtowed 3 times, which could be considered the ceremony of becoming a disciple. Tang Zheng wanted to refuse, but it was too late. In the beginning, the king of medicine wanted to accept him as a disciple and teach him medicine. Who would have thought that at this moment, the two people's identities would be swapped? Tang Zheng was not a wishy-washy person. Since the conditions were right, then he would let nature take its course and said, "Since you insist, then I will no longer refuse. I will teach you the art of alchemy, but before that, you must first practice a cultivation technique. When you reach the 3rd grade refining qi, then you can refine pills." The king of medicine was extremely excited and hurriedly nodded, "I will definitely work hard to practice. Master, please check on me at any time." Hearing him call him master, Tang Zheng still could not get used to it, and still felt a little awkward. It must be known that the king of medicine was old enough to be his grandfather, but now he had actually become his disciple. If Tang Dehai knew about this, he would definitely reprimand him for being absurd and reckless. Since he had taken in a cheap disciple, Tang Zheng could not just take the good name, he also had to give the other person benefits. Thus, he organized a cultivation technique for the king of medicine to practice. Other than the ancient clear heaven scroll, Tang Zheng only knew the cloud water technique that Fang Shishir practiced. The cloud water technique was a technique that was specially made for women. It was too feminine and was not suitable for the king of medicine. At the moment, he did not have a suitable method, so Tang Zheng only organized a set of techniques based on the ancient clear heaven scroll. It was not very powerful and could only be considered a beginner. In the future, when he found a suitable technique, he would pass it on to the king of medicine. Generally, when acknowledging a master, of course, a gift would be given. Tang Zheng pondered for a moment. He did not have any extra treasures, and other than the life-continuing pill, there was nothing else that he could take out. Thus, he simply gave the remaining 4 life-continuing pills to the king of medicine. "This is a meeting gift for you. Remember, you can only eat one at a time. Too much is harmful." Tang Zheng warned. The king of medicine nervously said, "Master, this is too precious. I cannot accept it." "King of medicine, since you have already acknowledged me as your master, then you have to listen to my orders, right? I order you to accept it," Tang Zheng firmly said. The king of medicine was suddenly startled. He could only accept the 4 life-continuing pills. However, he could not hide the expression on his face. Tang Zheng believed that he would definitely carefully study the life-continuing pills, but Tang Zheng did not mind. "Master, the auction is in 3 days. When the time comes, you should also go," the king of medicine said. Tang Zheng also wanted to personally see what kind of price the life-continuing pills could fetch. Thus, he gladly agreed. Tang Zheng left. This trip could be considered an unexpected harvest. Although it was unexpected, Tang Zheng threw this matter to the back of his mind in the blink of an eye. If it was anyone else, they would probably be so excited that they would not be able to sleep. He discovered that his personality and mentality had imperceptibly undergone many great changes. Normal people would think that things were impossible or unimaginable, but he was able to calmly accept them. For example, this time's apprenticeship. The sky gradually darkened. Tang Zheng had already left the capital and disappeared into the boundless mountain range. To the north of the capital was a natural moat. In ancient times, it was a place that military strategists would fight for. If the ethnic minorities outside the pass wanted to enter the pass, they would have to enter through this natural moat. Thus, every few years, there would be a series of battles here. There would be countless deaths and injuries. It was said that there were several graves near this pass. In ancient times, prisoners of war would not receive the same treatment as they do in modern times. They would often be subjected to inhumane torture and even be buried alive. Tens of thousands of people being buried alive. This scene, just thinking about it, made one's scalp numb. When Tang Zheng approached the pass, because of the mountain range, it was dark all year round. In addition, it was currently evening, so he could clearly feel the cold wind blowing in from all directions. The yin qi is dense. No wonder Tian Chanzi chose to raise Huang Xiang here. Tang Zheng secretly nodded. On both sides of this pass were tall mountains. Between the two mountains was a wide road overgrown with weeds. It was a scene of decline. Thinking back to the past, this place must have been extraordinarily noisy and heavily guarded. Tang Zheng walked step by step. It was as if he had returned to the era of golden spears and armored horses. Sounds of battle rang in his ears. Tang Zheng stopped in his tracks. This was not an illusion. His ears really rang with the sound of battle, as if he was really in an ancient battlefield. A chilly wind blew from the end of the road, swirling up the dust. The weeds on the ground rustled and whipped at the rocks on the side, making strange sounds. Sigh, if the War Soul Sword was here and the War Soul Sword absorbed the yin qi, its strength would definitely increase greatly. I wonder how the War Soul Sword is now in the hands of the martial sect leader? Tang Zheng muttered regretfully. The sound of horse hooves suddenly rang out, and the cold wind blew. At the end of the road, there was a black mass, and the sky had unknowingly become completely dark, without a trace of moonlight. A ball of true fire rose from Tang Zheng's palm and floated in front of Tang Zheng, illuminating the surroundings. Kill! Under the order, the black mass surged and rushed towards Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng did not retreat. Instead, he quickly rushed out and attacked with an iron fist. Bang! An explosion sounded out in the air, and the black shadows had already rushed in front of him. They were hundreds and thousands of tall horses, and on top of the horses were armored soldiers. Ghost soldiers, ghost generals, these are all transformed from the souls of the soldiers who died in battle. If an ordinary person were to meet them, they would definitely be scared silly or even die. But you guys just had to meet me. Consider it your bad luck. Tang Zheng's iron fist smashed into the front of the enemy's warhorse. With a miserable cry, the warhorse turned into ashes, and the ghost soldier on the warhorse raised his spear and pierced towards Tang Zheng's chest. Tang Zheng's hand was as fast as lightning. He grabbed the spear and shook it fiercely, causing the ghost soldier to be sent flying. Tang Zheng held the spear in his hand and swept it out, like an angry dragon emerging from the sea. A large number of ghost soldiers on the warhorse turned into yin qi and dissipated. Although the enemy had the advantage in numbers, it was still a piece of cake for Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng's cultivation was much higher than theirs. The number of yin soldiers gradually decreased, but not a single one of them ran away. Instead, they continued to attack, as if they wanted to use a war of attrition to exhaust Tang Zheng to death. Tang Zheng began a massacre, step by step, leaving behind traces of dense yin qi. When Tang Zheng was about to reach the end of the road, there were not many enemies left. Seeing that victory was in sight, suddenly a roar exploded, and a black shadow flew over, like a rock spreading its wings, descended from the sky, and attacked Tang Zheng without hesitation. "Kill!" the black shadow shouted. Bang! Chapter 478. Seeing the black shadow pouncing towards him with a shocking aura, Tang Zheng bellowed. His big hand drew a circle in the air and used the heaven-swallowing technique. The black shadow's attack was completely devoured by the heaven-swallowing technique. Tang Zheng soared into the air, his fingers closed together. Using his hand as a sword, he pierced towards the black shadow's eyes. The black shadow flipped backwards and dodged the attack, while Tang Zheng's hand directly pierced into the mountain wall, causing stone fragments to fly everywhere. The black shadow flipped his hands and a ghost head blade appeared in his hands. The ghost head blade slashed downwards, opening and closing wide. It was exceptionally tyrannical. Tang Zheng blocked the ghost head blade with one move, while his other hand used the heaven-flying immortal sword technique, accurately stabbing into his opponent's body. Ding! Sparks flew, and the sound of metal striking stone suddenly rang out. The black shadow's body was actually as hard as a boulder, and was not damaged in the slightest. Tang Zheng was someone who had cultivated the chaotic Vajra spell before, so he understood very well how difficult it was for the body to reach such a level of toughness. The black shadow only retreated slightly after taking a blow, and the ghost head blade in his hand chopped down. Heaven falls and earth rends. Since the other party was not a good person, Tang Zheng did not hold back anymore. Using his hand as a sword, he used the fourth move of the heaven-flying immortal. Degrees Celsius because bang! The ghost head blade was sent flying by this attack, and Tang Zheng's finger cut a large hole in the black shadow's chest, forcing the black shadow to stop. Huang Ziang! Tang Zheng finally saw the black shadow's face clearly. It was actually the Huang Ziang he was looking for. His cultivation was much higher than the last time they met in the capital. He was at least at the third stage of the Enidia stage, which was equivalent to the third stage of the pre-celestial stage. In addition, Huang Ziang's body was much stronger than an ordinary person's, and his fighting strength would far surpass that of a pre-celestial stage martial artist. Huang Ziang no longer had any intelligence, so his attack just now was instinctive, so Tang Zheng immediately formed a few seals with his hands and slapped them into his mind. This way he would listen to Tang Zheng's orders. Sure enough, the restless Huang Zheng immediately calmed down, and obediently stood beside Tang Zheng like a kitten. Tang Zheng let out a long sigh, and said with emotion, "Tian Chanzi is really powerful. Putting him in this place, his cultivation has actually increased by so much in such a short period of time. Let's leave this damned place." Tang Zheng looked around. Huang Ziang, Tang Zheng, Tang Zheng, Tang Zheng, Tang Zheng, Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng, did not like to stay in this gloomy place. 3 days later, the auction would be held in one of the best auction centers in the capital. This auction gathered many rich people from all walks of life, and the scale of the auction was so high that it was rarely seen in the past years. At this moment, the King of Medicine was standing at the entrance of the auction center, looking forward. There were many people who recognized him standing around, and they were all guessing who was worth the King of Medicine waiting for. Many rich people eagerly ran up to greet the King of Medicine, looking forward to the day when they needed the King of Medicine's help. The King of Medicine was obviously absent-minded, and did not care about the flattery of these rich people. Suddenly, a young man walked over, surrounded by a myriad of stars. This man had red lips, white teeth, and a handsome appearance. As soon as he appeared, he attracted the attention of many women, and there were even some who directly threw flirtatious glances at him. But he acted as if he did not see it, and strode towards the King of Medicine, and said respectfully, "Senior King of Medicine, hello." The King of Medicine glanced at the other party, nodded at the other party reservedly, and said, "Song Yu, did the Song family send you this time?" "Yes, my father is busy with other business, and I have always been interested in novel things, so I came to look for treasures." Song Yu said with a warm smile on her face, "After the auction, if Senior King of Medicine has time, this junior will treat you to dinner." "We'll see." The king of medicine said expressionlessly. Song Yu did not mind and nodded. While they were talking, the other two people also arrived and went straight to the king of medicine. Both of them had modest smiles on their faces. Senior King of Medicine, I didn't expect you to come to the auction this time. If there is any panacea, please reveal it in advance and let us broaden our horizons. Yen Luyun laughed heartily, but did not lose his respect. Yi Ku also nodded and said hello. The King of Medicine said, the Yen family and the Ye family also came, and they are all the elites of the third generation. It seems that several of your families have let you come out to experience. In the past, at this kind of auction, the second generation of several families would be present. This time, they sent them without prior consultation. It seems that they are determined to focus on training these third generation. Hey, why is there one person missing? Is there no one from the Chu family? The King of Medicine asked casually. Something happened in the Xiaofeng family, and they can't get away for the time being. Song Yu explained. Oh, I remember, Chu Chongyang is dead, and the Chu family must have become a pot of porridge. The King of Medicine and the Chu family's relationship was not very good, so he said without any scruples. Several people smiled bitterly, but it was not easy to answer. Just now, you said that you wanted to see the panacea. This time, you came to the right place. The King of Medicine said. Several people were a little excited and asked, is there really a panacea? In the past, the King of Medicine would also take out some medicinal pills to auction. These medicinal pills had the effect of conditioning the body and mind and prolonging life. Even so, they were the target of many rich people. Of course there is, and it is definitely beyond your imagination. The King of Medicine vowed. The few of them were skeptical, but the Medicine King never boasted. Since he was so confident, then this thing should be 80 to 90% accurate. Several people gradually became excited and secretly made up their minds to bid for this panacea later. Seeing that the King of Medicine was still looking into the distance from time to time, Song Yu asked, Senior King of Medicine, are you waiting for someone? The King of Medicine nodded. Several people looked at each other. Who on earth was so important that the King of Medicine came to greet them in person? It should be known that in the past, it was others who waited for the King of Medicine. They were not in a hurry to leave, and they were ready to see who it was. Suddenly, the King of Medicine showed an excited look and quickly walked down the stairs. Several people's hearts skipped a beat, and they hurriedly looked in the direction of the footsteps. They saw two people strolling towards them. The three of them were dumbstruck. It was as if they had been immobilized. They couldn't move at all. How can it be Tang Zheng? The person next to him is the mysterious master who appeared at the Yen family's birthday banquet. Why is the King of Medicine so enthusiastic? Song Yu's heart set off stormy waves. Yen Luyun and Yi Ku's thoughts were also similar. After Yen Luyun was shocked, he quickly walked towards Tang Zheng, while Song Yu and Yi Ku stood on the spot. The King of Medicine looked at Huang Xiang in surprise. He was deeply impressed by this person. When he was in ordinary balance, he also came to assassinate Tang Zheng. If the King of Medicine did not sacrifice himself to save Tang Zheng's life would have already been lost. Now they were together again, it was really strange. However, the King of Medicine did not ask much, and respectfully shouted to Tang Zheng, Master, you are here. I'm not late. Tang Zheng said with a smile. No, the auction is ready. Let's go in first. Okay. The brother Tang, you are here too. It's been a long time. Yen Luyun laughed and held Tang Zheng's hand tightly. Young Master Yen is also here. Yeah, there are quite a few good treasures in an auction of this scale. If brother Tang takes a fancy to anything later on, don't hesitate and make the first move to gain the upper hand. These people are all hungry wolves, and when they see a little treasure, they will fight until their heads bleed. Yen Luyun kindly introduced. I just came to open my eyes. Tang Zheng shrugged. Master, let's go in. The auction is about to start. The King of Medicine said. Tang Zheng nodded and walked up the stairs. Yen Luyun was stunned on the spot. He thought that there was something wrong with his ears. The King of Medicine actually called Tang Zheng master. This was a mess. Didn't the king of medicine want to take Tang Zheng as his disciple? Why did he call Tang Zheng master instead? Yen Luyun followed with suspicion, but he was too embarrassed to ask directly. However, he found something strange. The king of medicine was really respectful to Tang Zheng, just like a disciple to his master. It was completely different from the last time they met. The world is in chaos in chaos. Yen Luyun shook his head hard and muttered in his heart. Oh, young Master Song and young Master Yi are also here. I really let you down. I did not do as you wished, and I am still standing here alive. Tang Zheng said with a smile, but his words were full of gunpowder. When Tang Zheng was injured and unconscious, these two people intended to harm him. He would not forget this grudge. Yi Ku awkwardly said, Tang Zheng, there must be a misunderstanding. Your relationship with Ding Dang is not shallow. How can we want you to die? Yi, is it? If you don't want people to know, then don't do it. I remember everything that the two of you have done in my mind. Tang Zheng pointed to his head and said with a cold smile. Song Yu said with an ashen face, Tang Zheng, when we met for the first time in ordinary balance, it was also at the auction. I still remember that you bought a pill furnace. I never thought that you, who was not amazing at that time, would achieve today's achievements in a short period of time. You have stirred up turmoil in the capital. If you had known earlier, I am afraid that you would not have lived until today. Song Yu and Tang Zheng had deep grievances. Therefore, there was no false civility at all. They were directly opposed to each other. Young Master Song, if you want to kill me, then do it. Otherwise, why are you talking so much nonsense? Moreover, at the martial arts convention, I was plotted against. I have not yet found the person behind the scenes. If I find out who did it, do you think I will let him go? Tang Zheng asked. Song Yu's heart thumped, but she did not show any difference. She said lightly, Is that so? Then I wish you to find the real culprit behind the scenes as soon as possible. Seeing that Song Yu did not have the slightest difference, Tang Zheng could not determine whether this matter was done by him. Moreover, he had just killed Chu Chongyang. At this time, if he killed Song Yu, he would really become the target of public criticism. Even if he knew that the other party did not have good intentions, Tang Zheng could not do it like this. Master, let's go in. The auction is about to start. The king of medicine advised. Tang Zheng nodded, snorted, and walked into the auction center, leaving only Song Yu and Yi Ke looking at each other. They also thought that they had heard wrong. How could the king of medicine call Tang Zheng master? Chapter 479. Under the Medicine King's lead, Tang Zheng and Huang Xiang walked into the auction center, immediately attracting the gazes of many people. Everyone whispered to each other, trying to guess just who this person was, to actually cause the Medicine King to mobilize so many people. Tang Zheng glanced at the people seated in the hall. Every one of them had an extraordinary aura. He could tell that they were either wealthy or respectable people. However, he spotted two familiar faces in the crowd. Qi Shaoan and Old Wei saw him as well. They immediately stood up and walked toward him. Professor Qi, you're here too. Tang Zheng greeted them with a smile. During this time, Qi Shaoan had been researching about the ancient times. This time, he was specially invited by the organizer as a consultant. Given his status in the field of archaeology, with him in charge, it was guaranteed that the antiques auctioned here would be authentic. Old Wei was indebted to Tang Zheng for helping him to bury the hatchet with Qin Batian. Otherwise, the 1,000-year-old blood jade he sold to Qin Batian would have costly Hung Qin her life. If that happened, his antique shop would not be able to continue operating. Old Wei was very grateful to Tang Zheng. However, during this period of time, every time he asked Qi Shaoan to invite Tang Zheng out, Qi Shaoan would refuse, which made him feel strange. Young Master Tang, we finally meet again. I haven't thanked you properly for what you did last time. After the auction is over, you must come. I'll treat you to a meal. Old Wei said warmly. It's just a small matter. Don't worry about it. It may be a small matter to you, but it's a big deal to me. Old Qi, you're his mentor. Please say a few words for him. Old Wei said. Qi Shaoan did not agree. Ever since he found out about Tang Zheng's identity as a cultivator, his desire to take him in as his disciple had faded. Tang Zheng's identity made it impossible for him to focus on boring archaeology work. However, his impression of Tang Zheng did not deteriorate. Instead, he was more interested in him. Tang Zheng, you're here for the auction too? What are you auctioning? Qi Shaoan asked curiously. Tang Zheng nodded. We're auctioning off some small items. You'll see later. Seeing that he was keeping them in suspense, the two of them did not ask in detail. They nodded at the King of Medicine and Huang Xiang and returned to their seats. Although the King of Medicine was well known, not everyone knew who he was. At least, Qi Shaoan and Old Wei didn't know who he was, so they weren't as surprised as those who knew the inside story. After sitting in the VIP seat, the King of Medicine sat next to him and softly introduced the auction process and precautions. At this time, the three young masters also walked in. They looked deeply at Tang Zheng, and then sat on the other side of the VIP seats. The organizer went up on stage and said a lot of nonsense before announcing the start of the auction. This auction was very direct. They skipped a lot of unnecessary formalities and directly presented the auction items. These auction items included works of art, antiques, paintings, jade, and even medicine. According to the King of Medicine's introduction, many of these medicines were at the forefront of science and technology. Many serious diseases that caused ordinary people to pale in fright also had corresponding medicines to treat them. However, these drugs were often in the experimental stage and had a certain risk. Of course, they were also extremely expensive and could only be tested on a small scale. Even so, the auction every year was still very competitive. For rich people who were heavily armed, even if there was a glimmer of hope, they would still rush like ducks. Seeing the bids being raised again and again, each time increasing the price by millions, they really experienced the life of the rich. To them, wealth was just a number. As long as it was for the goal in their hearts, they would not be stingy with money. The next auction item is a gentleman's family heirloom. Because the gentleman is in urgent need of money, he put it up for auction. This auction item is called the Golden Jade Purple Garment. The specific age is unknown, but after the appraisal by our advisory team, it is without a doubt authentic. The auctioneer introduced. A purple garment appeared in front of everyone. This garment was very bright and colorful. The main color was purple, but it was interspersed with gold embellishments, which made the color of the whole garment appear more lively. Purple was a noble color, and it was extremely difficult for ordinary people to wear it. Moreover, this was an ancient garment. Modern people could only wear it at home. Moreover, this was an antique. Even if it was bought, it would be as a work of art. No one would really wear it. When the crowd saw the golden jade purple garment, there were obviously not many people interested. Many people shook their heads. The value of antique clothing was lower than other types of antiques, and it was extremely difficult to preserve, so it was not on the list of the bidding targets. Only a few women were attracted. They praised, "The clothes of ancient times are so beautiful, like clothes worn by gods. It is much more beautiful than the clothes in the fashion week." The starting price is 5 million, and each bid is increased by 500,000. When the auctioneer said this price, there was a burst of boos. This price was the lowest in an auction of this level. Although the price was low, there were not many people who were willing to buy it. This kind of high-standard auction, this kind of quality auction item must have come in through the back door. Someone muttered and questioned. "Let's see who will buy this thing." The auctioneer looked at the guests expectantly. No one raised their paddle for a long time. He thought that the auction was going to fail. Finally, a woman raised her paddle. The auctioneer excitedly shouted, 5 million, this lady has bid 5 million, is there anyone who wants to go higher? This woman is a fashion designer. This must be bought for research. Someone recognized the bidder. Only they would be interested in this dress. After this bid, no one raised their paddle for a long time. Seeing this, the auctioneer shouted, 5 million going once. 5 million going twice. Just when he was about to shout 5 million 3 times, a person raised his paddle and increased the price. 5,500,000. This gentleman has bid 5,500,000. Is there anyone who wants to go higher? The auctioneer excitedly said. There was really a spendthrift who increased the price. Everyone looked at the person who raised the paddle at the same time. It was a young face sitting in the VIP seat. Ah, isn't this the young man who came in with the king of medicine just now? Why is he interested in this dress? Everyone murmured in their hearts, especially the three young masters. They couldn't help but sit up straight and stare at Tang Zheng with burning eyes. When the king of medicine heard Tang Zheng's bid, he was also surprised and asked, "Master, why are you interested in this dress?" Tang Zheng slightly raised the corner of his mouth and said calmly, "I am determined to get this dress." The king of medicine was slightly stunned and didn't know what he meant. He said, "The price of this dress is definitely not very high. If you like it, you can buy it." Of course, Tang Zheng wouldn't waste a few million for no reason. This golden jade amethyst dress was worth it. No, it was worth far more than a few million. Tang Zheng felt the fluctuation of spiritual power on this dress. This was a magic weapon, and a black level one at that. However, this was a defensive magic weapon, not an offensive magic weapon. Even so, it was still worth a lot of money. It was useless to others, but it was of great use to Tang Zheng. When the designer saw someone increasing the price, she didn't raise her paddle again. Obviously, in her mind, this dress wasn't worth increasing the price. When the auctioneer saw this, he thought the auction would be over soon and directly shouted, 5,500,000, going once. But just as he finished speaking, a person raised his paddle. When the auctioneer saw the person who raised his paddle, he excitedly opened his eyes wide and even raised his voice. He shouted, "Young Master Song increased the price by 500,000. Is there anyone who wants to go higher?" If Tang Zheng bid for a small stone that fell into the lake, at this moment, Song Yu's bid was like a big stone that fell into the water, creating a circle of ripples. Originally, some people were already drowsy, but at this moment, they immediately raised their spirits, held their breath, and looked at the golden jade amethyst dress again. They wanted to see what kind of treasure this was that it could even make the Song family take action. Everyone still hadn't seen the reason why, and Yi Ku also raised her paddle. Young Master Yi increased the price by 500,000. The auctioneer's voice trembled. This time, the most inconspicuous item actually aroused the interest of the two families, which was really unexpected. Before everyone could recover from their shock, Yan Luyun had also raised his paddle. This time, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air, thinking that today's trip was not in vain. To actually see the three great families interested in the same auction item at the same time, there was a good show to watch. Many people looked at Tang Zheng regretfully. The three families had already taken action, so this person definitely had no hope. Tang Zheng slightly frowned and glanced at the three people. He only saw Yan Luyun nodding and smiling at him, and the other two people had a cold face. Tang Zheng did not hesitate to raise his paddle, and Song Yu immediately raised her paddle. Yi Ku and Yan Luyun followed closely behind. After that, the four people took turns to raise their paddles, and it became a competition. Others looked at this scene dumbfoundedly. Was this the willfulness of the rich? For a broken piece of clothing, the competition was so fierce that it had entered a white-hot stage. The auctioneer was also petrified. He had experienced many large-scale auctions, but there was no such situation. The four people seemed to be determined to get this golden jade amethyst dress, and they were rich and willful. 10 million. The auctioneer trembled and shouted, this was really like a dream. Yan Luyun stood up directly and shouted, I will bid 20 million, I will give this golden jade amethyst dress to Brother Tang. Tang Zheng froze for a moment. He did not expect Yan Luyun to bid for him. Suddenly, Tang Zheng immediately became the focus of attention. His first bid was 20 million, and it was from the Yen family. This was clearly the Yen family showing goodwill to Tang Zheng. Many people who did not know the inside story were speculating about what kind of sacred being Tang Zheng was, and how could he be valued by the Yen family. Chapter 480. Whether it was worth it or not, only the person involved, Yan Luyan, had the answer, but other people's feelings of awe for Tang Zheng arose spontaneously. There was no doubt that Tang Zheng's name would be thoroughly spread in these rich and powerful circles, and it would be even more resounding than before. Looking at Tang Zheng's astonished expression, Yan Luyan was very satisfied with his own actions. To make a person impressed, he had to do something unexpected. Since the Yan family even refused the request of the palace, their thoughts of winning over Tang Zheng would be even more unscrupulous, and they did not need to care about other people's attitudes. "Young Master Yan, how can this be?" Tang Zheng shouted across the air. Yan Luyan smiled heroically and said, "Why not? Just treat it as a small gift from me to you. 20 million for a small gesture." None of the people present were poor, but not many of them had such boldness. The king of medicine had a good relationship with the Yan family. Seeing that the Yan family obviously wanted to make friends with Tang Zheng, he was happy to see it and advised, "Master, the Yan family's good intentions, there is no need to refuse." Tang Zheng secretly nodded. No matter what medicine the Yan family was selling in the gourd, the relationship between Tang Zheng and the other three families was very tense. There was no need to push the Yan family to the opposite side. So, he cupped his hands and said, "Thank you for young Master Yan's good intentions." Yan Luyan heard the words, and his eyebrows showed joy. Tang Zheng accepted this gift, and the relationship with the Yan family could be deepened step by step. Song Yu and Yi Ke looked at each other and were shocked by this change. Was it really worth it for the Yan family to spend so much? Did they want Yan Luyan to succeed? Yi Ke's tight body softened and leaned on the chair. She did not intend to fight for it. Since Yan Luyan said so, there was no need to fight for it and intensify the contradiction with the Yan family. Song Yu's expression kept changing as he stared at the golden jade purple robe. With his knowledge, he really couldn't see what was so special about it. He then looked at the calm and composed Tang Zheng and the determined Yan Luyan. He couldn't help but sigh and lean back in his chair. Obviously, after weighing the pros and cons, he gave up on the fight. With the Song family's current status and ability, it was definitely not a good thing to go head-to-head with the Yan family. Seeing that no one was bidding anymore, the auctioneer made the final call. The golden jade amethyst robe now belonged to Tang Zheng. It would only be returned to him after the auction. After this fierce bidding, everyone felt that this trip was worthwhile, but more people gradually understood that the situation in the capital was becoming more and more delicate. Next is the last item of today's auction. It is rare in the world. It can be said that it is the most precious item in the past years. Perhaps some people will question its authenticity and think that it is a fantasy. Even I can't help but wonder if it really has such a magical effect. The auctioneer took a deep breath and said with a tone full of emotion. Everyone's attention was attracted by this remark. The three young masters' originally relaxed minds were tense again. They remembered the elixir that the king of medicine had said. The auctioneer saw that everyone's interest was aroused and continued with satisfaction. This item is called the life-continuing pill. As the name suggests, it is to extend a person's life. For example, you can live for 80 years, but after you take this life-continuing pill, you can live for more than 10 years. When this remark came out, everyone was silent. Obviously, everyone was shocked by this sentence. But in an instant, it was like a drop of water being thrown into a pot of boiling oil. The hall became lively, whispers, and discussions. "You're joking, right?" someone questioned. The auctioneer bitterly smiled and resentfully said, "I also suspect that I am joking, but I will solemnly tell you that this is not a joke." "Nonsense, how could there be a life-continuing pill in this world? Isn't this like a legendary elixir?" "That's right, the medicines that were auctioned before were at most to nourish the body and prolong one's life. This life-continuing pill actually said that it can extend a person's life by more than 10 years. This kind of lie is too untrustworthy." Many people had this kind of thought. The auctioneer understood these people's doubts, but he didn't panic. Instead, he took a deep breath and calmly said, "Everyone's doubts are very reasonable because no one has seen this kind of miraculous elixir with their own eyes before. But I want to say that since this life-continuing pill can participate in this auction, then there must be a reason. Seeing that everyone was craning their necks, the auctioneer did not keep them in suspense and directly said, "This auction item was sent by the King of Medicine Senior, and he vouched for it. Does anyone still have doubts?" The mocking words that many people had prepared were about to burst out of their throats, but after hearing this sentence, it was as if someone had grabbed their throats and forcibly choked them back. The King of Medicine vouched for it. Many people who knew of the King of Medicine's reputation immediately craned their necks to look at the King of Medicine, but saw that he was calm and composed, full of confidence. It was obvious that the auctioneer's words were not false. The King of Medicine vouched for it. Could it be that this life-continuing pill really is an elixir? It's possible the King of Medicine Senior would not destroy his own reputation. Moreover, there is no need for him to create this kind of fake gimmick. The three young masters really wanted to rush over and ask the King of Medicine what was going on, but they understood more than anyone else the King of Medicine's authority. The three of them did not have any more doubts, but their eyes became more and more heated. This kind of elixir must be obtained, every family needed it. Senior King of Medicine Senior, I have a question I would like to ask. Even if this life-continuing pill really has the effect of prolonging one's life, how can you be sure that it can extend one's life by more than 10 years? Someone finally couldn't help but stand up and politely ask. The King of Medicine said without changing his expression, "I want to be clear. The life-continuing pill does not only have the effect of prolonging one's life, but it can really extend one's life. For example, if a dying person takes the life-continuing pill, his life will immediately increase by more than 10 years, unless there is an accident." When everyone heard this, their eyes widened, and their breathing involuntarily quickened. The richer a person was, the more they cherished their life. Everyone would reach the end of their life, and at that time, as long as they took the life-continuing pill, their life would increase by more than 10 years. No one would refuse such a gift. Could this be the result of Senior King of Medicine Senior's research? Someone asked. The King of Medicine explained, "I am ashamed, this is not the result of my research, but the result of my master. The life-continuing pills auctioned today were all made by my master." Everyone revealed a suspicious expression. The King of Medicine had been famous for a long time, but the others had never heard him mention his master. Many people were very curious about this mysterious master. To be able to make such a miraculous elixir, how great must his ability be? But there were three people who were shocked, and they all looked at Tang Jing. They had personally heard the King of Medicine call Tang Jing his master. Could it be that the master the King of Medicine was talking about was him? "May I ask who your honorable master is? Can he broaden our horizons?" The King of Medicine pointed at Tang Jing and said, "This is my master." Tang Jing's expression did not change, but the others were so shocked that their jaws almost fell to the ground. Even if Yen Luyun and the others had guessed a little, they were shocked speechless by this news. "Senior King of Medicine Senior, you must be joking." Someone did not believe it. The King of Medicine's face darkened and said, "I never joke." Everyone was stunned. Seeing his serious expression, it did not seem like he was joking. Suddenly, everyone looked at Tang Jing with more and more complicated eyes. At such a young age, he had become the King of Medicine's master. No one would believe it, but since it came from the King of Medicine's mouth, they could not help but believe it. Tang Jing was calm and composed, and really had an unfathomable demeanor. Moreover, just now Yen Luyun did not hesitate to use 20 million to get on good terms with the other party. This showed that his identity was not ordinary. Many people gradually dispelled their worries and began to look forward to the mysterious life-continuing pill. They made up their minds to get a life-continuing pill and store it away in case they needed it. Many people even began to make phone calls to report this important news to their families. Even the three young masters were no exception. They understood Tang Jing better than ordinary people. Others may have doubted the authenticity of the life-continuing pill, but they immediately believed it because Tang Jing was a cultivator. There were many things about cultivators that could not be measured by common sense. Since no one has any more questions, then the auction will begin. As the first person to bid for this miraculous pill, I am honored. The starting price for one life-continuing pill is 10 million, each bid will increase by 1 million. As the voice fell, an attendant walked onto the stage with a brocade box in her hands. When the brocade box was opened, a strange fragrance assailed everyone's nostrils, causing them to feel refreshed. Everyone stretched their necks, wanting to see the true appearance of the life-continuing pill. The appearance of the life-continuing pill was not bad. It had a bit of the charm of an immortal pill. This smell is too good, it makes people feel refreshed. Just by smelling it, I'm afraid my insomnia will be cured. Someone eagerly said. But some people did not care about praising it and directly raised their paddle. 20 million. From 10 million to 20 million, it could be seen how attractive the life-continuing pill was. 30 million. Some people did not want to fall behind and continued to raise the price. From this moment on, the auction reached its climax, with the price increasing by the tens of millions. The auctioneer's face flushed red. This was too exciting. This was called being willful with money. This was called using money to buy a life. Each and every one of them were red in the face, almost coming to blows. The king of medicine nodded his head in satisfaction and said, "Master, I already said that the life-continuing pill's value can only be displayed in this kind of place. Looking at their enthusiasm, this time it will definitely exceed our expectations." Tang Jing gave a gratified smile. If it was not for the king of medicine's help, then he would not have been able to sell it for such a good price. The life-continuing pill had already been bid for 100 million. 100 million was a sky-high price. Was it expensive? Not expensive, not expensive at all. Nowadays, a blue and white porcelain or a master's painting could be sold for a sky-high price of several hundred million. If a godly pill that could extend a person's life by 10 years was not sold for 100 million, then it would be an insult to the godly pill. Chapter 481. The bidding price had already soared to 200 million, but the rich people's enthusiasm did not diminish. The three young masters were finally unable to sit still. Song Yu suddenly stood up and loudly shouted, 300 million. Then she looked at the others with an unkind expression. When the rich people who were originally full of confidence saw this, they subconsciously stopped. These rich people could compete with each other, but they did not have the background and strength of the large families. Competing with them was tantamount to a mantis trying to stop a chariot. However, there were exceptions to everything. An old rich man supported himself with a walking stick and shakily stood up and shouted, I bid 400 million. Song Yu's eyes turned cold and swept towards the old man like a sharp knife. The veins on the old man's hand popped out. Why was he not afraid of the Song family? Because he was a person who was about to die. The doctor had already given him an ultimatum. If a miracle did not happen, then he would have to report to the king of hell. The life-continuing pill was his only hope of survival. Even if he had to take a huge risk, he still had to fight for it. However, the others did not have the courage. Seeing Song Yu's unkind expression, many people's hearts were in turmoil. When the auctioneer saw this hostile situation, his throat became dry. He coughed and coughed to ease his nervousness. He asked, Is there anyone who wants to bid higher? 500 million. Song Yu gnashed her teeth as she shouted. Her eyes were about to spit fire and her gaze could kill. The old man wanted to raise his paddle again, but he was pulled back by the younger generation. It was clear that they knew that Song Yu was on the verge of exploding. The old man was not afraid of the Song family, but the younger generation could not bear the anger of the Song family. The old man sighed and regretfully lowered his head. It was as if all the strength in his body had been sucked out. He listlessly sat on the chair. Song Yu revealed a proud expression. The Song family's name had finally suppressed the others. This life-continuing pill was in her bag. This was what the old master of the Song family, Song Jianan, had instructed. They had to obtain the life-continuing pill at all costs, so Song Yu naturally didn't dare to be negligent. However, when his gaze swept past Tang Jing, it was as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over his head, and the complacent expression on his face completely vanished. Was the life-continuing pill worth being happy about? Of course, but looking at Tang Jing, why couldn't he feel happy at all? That was because he had given the 500 million yuan to Tang Jing. He had allowed Tang Jing to earn an astronomical amount of money. As an old enemy, of course, he would not be happy. But what could he do? Apart from the life-continuing pill, there were no other pills. If one wanted to increase their lifespan, they would have to obediently fork out the money. Yan Luyun and Yi Ku also couldn't wait to spend money, but they did not compete with Song Yu, because the continuing life pill was not the only one, and there was no need to raise the price. A life-continuing pill, 500 million yuan sold. This life-continuing pill belongs to young Master Song. Congratulations. The auctioneer made the final decision and announced excitedly. The etiquette lady walked in front of Song Yu with a brocade box in her hand. Song Yu hurriedly stood up and took the brocade box with both hands. It was as if he was holding a sacred object, both excited and respectful. A burst of fragrance assailed his nostrils, making him have an impulse to swallow it directly. However, this was something that the old man wanted, so he did not dare to fill his own pockets. In fact, to be honest, he was still young and did not need this thing. The biggest role of the life-continuing pill was that it was effective for the dying and the elderly. For people who still had decades to live, the effect of the life-continuing pill was not obvious. Although the life-continuing pill allowed a person's body to extend their lifespan by 10 years, if they encountered an accident, such as being stabbed in the chest by a sword, this person would still die. The life-continuing pill was not a gold medal to avoid death, it only extended the body's life functions. Song Yu could not wait to put away the life-continuing pill, keeping it close to his body. Then, he was ready to go and prepare for the next auction. The etiquette lady held a life-continuing pill on the stage. Everyone was quiet. This time, no one shouted a price, but they all looked at Yan Luyun and Yi Ku, who were sitting quietly. Since the three big families were determined to get this thing, they simply did not want to get involved. First, they would let them harvest it, and then see if there was a chance to fight for it. Yan Luyun directly shouted a price of 500 million yuan. No one competed with him again, and he received a life-continuing pill. Yi Ku followed suit and also bought a life-continuing pill at the same price. Tang Jing looked at all this without saying a word. It seemed that the clouds were light and the wind was light, but in fact, there were stormy waves in his heart. He did not expect that a life-continuing pill could be auctioned for a sky-high price of 500 million yuan. Selling it to Yishuanji was really too cheap for him. He still underestimated the desire of these rich people for life. 1 is 500 million yuan, 10 is not 5 billion yuan. Tang Jing excitedly thought, so that his industry would have enough funds to operate for the time being. The king of medicine subconsciously touched the life-continuing pill in his pocket. The gift that Tang Jing gave him was really too valuable. Even if his concept of money was not very keen, he also knew what this price meant. Suddenly, he looked at Tang Jing with more and more fiery eyes. When the etiquette lady held the fourth life-continuing pill and walked on the stage, the crowd suddenly exploded and boiled up. The three big families had already received one, and no one fought with them. Now, they could finally bid with their own ability. However, everything would not necessarily go according to people's wishes. The eyes of the old man who had previously given up lit up, and he stood up directly. Using all his strength, he shouted, 1 billion, I will give 1 billion yuan. Many people sucked in a breath of cold air. The previous price of 500 million yuan was already not low, and now it was doubled. 1 billion yuan, even for rich people, was not a small amount. However, this old man was obviously very eager for life, and was determined to buy a life-continuing pill. Many people saw this and began to retreat. The three young masters were originally prepared to compete, but they were stumped by the old man's formation. Just now, the old man was scared off. But now, even if the three big families increased the price, he would still stake everything on this one bid. The three looked at each other and saw the worry in each other's eyes. This old man was already possessed, and was like a madman. There was no need to compete with a madman. Thus, everyone tacitly agreed not to raise the price. The fourth life continuing pill was successfully auctioned off at a sky-high price of 1 billion yuan. Tang Zheng also did not expect this, but more money flowed into his wallet, so of course he was happy to see it. This is already the fourth pill. How many life-continuing pills are there? Song Yu muttered to herself. Everyone else also had the same question in their hearts. Finally, someone could not help but ask, how many life-continuing pills are there? 10. The auctioneer stretched out his 10 fingers. Now is the fourth life-continuing pill. Since everyone's enthusiasm is so high, then we will not set a starting price. If you are interested, please directly offer a price. If the auctioneer had a heart disease, he was afraid that his heart disease would relapse. This kind of bidding was really too stimulating. Hearing that there were 10 life-continuing pills, there were only 6 left. The 3 young masters looked at each other. Song Yu said, 2, since there are still 6 pills, then we can divide them equally among the 3 families. We can also bid for 2 more life-continuing pills, not giving others a chance to take advantage of us. What do you think? Yi Kun nervously nodded and said, I think so. Yen Luyun looked at the 2 of them meaningfully, and said in a non-committal manner, I'm afraid things won't be as simple as you think. Many people's eyes are red, and they are going crazy. For the life-continuing pill, they will not hesitate to pay any price. If we want to bid fairly, then we will definitely pay a high price. Song Yu was not reconciled and said coldly, Are these people pig brains? Raising the price so unscrupulously in the end, the one who will benefit is Tang Zheng. Yen Luyun frowned and said, So what if Tang Zheng benefits? He worked hard to refine the life-continuing pill, and he has indeed received the due return. Seeing him make a move for Tang Zheng and not stingy with his praise, Yi Ku said with a heavy face, Do you want us to be spendthrifts and bid for all of them at a sky-high price? The old man bid 1 billion to succeed. If other people bid less than this price, it would not be justified. In other words, Tang Zheng's wealth would increase by a large amount for no reason. Song Yu and Yi Ku thought about it and felt short of breath. This was too easy for him. But what can they do? They can only watch Tang Zheng make a lot of money every day. No, this was billions. It was simply the world's most profitable business. The fifth life-continuing pill has been put on the stage. Song Yu directly called a price of 500 million, and then looked around like a tiger eyeing its prey. However, this time, he found that many people's eyes were very eager, and they did not have the intention to give up. 500 million, this life-continuing pill will be bought by the Song family. Song Yu arbitrarily announced. The meaning of the threat was clear. Your Song family already has one, don't you want to give others a way to live? I will bid 600 million. A middle-aged rich man with a big belly said indignantly. Yes, we want a fair auction, the highest price gets it. Someone echoed. The attraction of the life-continuing pill was too big, even suppressing their fear of the Song family. Song Yu heard the words, and his face was ashen. In front of so many people, he was somewhat embarrassed. He bitterly swept his eyes at the few people who spoke. Several people deliberately avoided his gaze, but in their hearts, they did not give up. Yen Luyun and Yi Ku's hearts were dark. Their wishful thinking had no chance to start. This time, they were afraid that they would really have to bid a sky-high price. You really want to bid 600 million? Song Yu gritted his teeth and asked. Of course. The middle-aged rich man mustered up his courage and said, Well, very good, but I advise you, the life-continuing pill is not omnipotent. Don't let the life-continuing pill become a death sentence. Song Yu said with a smile. The middle-aged rich man was shocked. He gritted his teeth and weighed it, but still did not give up. Seeing that his threat did not work, Song Yu was forced to raise the price. 700 million. 1 billion. The middle-aged tycoon hesitated for a moment and shouted loudly, directly raising the price of the previous one. Song Yu clenched his teeth so hard that they were about to shatter. Seeing him in a dilemma, Tang Zheng's heart blossomed with joy. Chapter 482. Everyone looked towards the entrance and saw that these people had an extraordinary aura. They walked straight to the main stage and loudly said, "The auction is over." What? Everyone thought they heard wrong. These people rushed in and announced the end of the auction. What the hell was going on? The organizers' people quickly went up to negotiate. The other guests were even more indignant. These rich people were not willing to suffer losses. Moreover, there were still 6 life-continuing pills left. How could they leave just like that? Who are you people? What right do you have to tell us to leave? Someone unhappily asked. That's right. How dare you be so arrogant here? Capture them. Someone angrily said. Some of the rich people's bodyguards were already ready to move. They were waiting for their employer's order to flip these people over. The 3 young masters frowned at the same time. They looked at each other and shook their heads. They did not know who these people were. However, Tang Zheng saw 2 familiar faces among them. Xing Feng and Kai Guibin. He already knew that they had formed a new organization called the Dragon Group. They even had a conflict with the Thundercloud Beast and had captured a flame bird. Their strength was not ordinary. The Dragon Group broke into the auction. What were they doing here? Tang Zheng muttered in his heart. He was slightly angry. This was related to his accumulation of funds. How could it be disrupted like this? The organizer was negotiating with Xing Feng in a low voice. Xing Feng had an arrogant expression on his face. The organizer lowered his head and announced, "I'm sorry, everyone. This auction ends here. Please go back." What the hell? The auction is not over yet. How can it be over? Are you playing with us? Someone directly stood up and angrily said. The organizer looked at Xing Feng helplessly with a troubled expression. Xing Feng coldly snorted and waved his hand. You don't want to leave? Throw him out. One of the underlings walked towards the rich man. The rich man's bodyguard immediately stood up. However, before he could make a move, he was hit in the chest and flew out. He spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. The rich man was dragged out of the door like a dead dog. The others looked at all of this in shock. These were all people with status, yet these people actually treated them like this. They were going too far. Many people slapped their chairs and stood up. The crowd was agitated. How dare you behave so atrociously here? Xing Feng sneered in disdain. Don't think that you can act all high and mighty just because you have some money. You're worthless before me. Didn't you ask who we are? Let me tell you, listen well. We are the Dragon Group. Remember this clearly. If you want to get back your face, we will accompany you anytime. Now scram. Xing Feng's aura was overwhelming. His voice was loud and resonant, causing people's minds to tremble. In the capital, the only people who dared to be so arrogant, other than the few great clans, were those with official backgrounds. No one present was an idiot. They immediately guessed that the other party must have an official status. As the saying goes, civilians do not fight with officials. No matter how rich a person was, he would not dare to go head-to-head with an official. Many people who had originally raised their necks immediately shrunk back. Their proud and straight bodies immediately drooped down. One after another, the soles of their feet were smeared with oil, and they slipped away. But some people did not slip away. The 3 young masters were one of them. If the people of the 3 great clans also left with their tails between their legs, then wouldn't it ruin their own reputation? Song Yu stood up and went straight to Xing Feng. She asked, "How come I haven't heard of the Dragon Group?" Xing Feng glanced at Song Yu and said with a smile, "It turned out to be young Master Song. Nice to meet you. The Dragon Group was established not long ago, but in the future, the name of the Dragon Group will definitely be heard by everyone." Yan Luyun and Yi Ku also came to Xing Feng. Even if the other party had an official background, they still had to ask for an explanation. After all, the life-continuing pill was not an ordinary auction item. If they passed this village, they may not have this shop. Why did the Dragon Group stop the auction? Yan Luyun asked in a deep voice. Xing Feng mysteriously said, "I advise the 3 of you that each of you has already obtained a life-continuing pill. Don't overdo it and leave on your own." The 3 people's hearts thumped, and they secretly thought that this was not good. These people were also here for the life-continuing pill. In other words, since the beginning of the auction, The news of the life-continuing pill had reached the ears of the other party, so they came to intercept. The officials were also interested in the life-continuing pill. In fact, thinking about it carefully, the rich people had an infinite desire for life, and the people with power were even more so. Otherwise, why would so many ancient emperors pursue the path of longevity at all costs? Although the life-continuing pill was not equivalent to longevity, it would give more than 10 years of life. This was a temptation that no one could refuse. The three people's hearts were bitter, and they secretly lamented that it was a pity. They were too conservative before, and even arrogant. They thought that with their family's strength and influence, they would be able to win and get the life-continuing pill. Unexpectedly, there were unexpected winds and clouds, and the officials were also interested in the life-continuing pill. This matter was big. Even if it was the three great clans, they may not be able to get the 6 life-continuing pills. They were unwilling. Yika said, "We each got 1 life-continuing pill. It is too little." Xing Feng sneered, "Humph, humph, it is already a lot. How can this kind of elixir be spread out casually? Wouldn't the world be in chaos? Of course, it should be nationalized. In this world, even the gold, silver, jewelry, and antiques dug out from their own ancestral home would be nationalized. The life-continuing pill, this kind of heaven-defying existence, how could the officials easily let it go?" When the three people heard this, they wanted to refute, but they had no way to do so. They could only turn to look at Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng heard their conversation clearly, but his face was expressionless. This change was indeed beyond his expectations. He did not expect that the temptation of the life-continuing pill would be so great that it would arouse the interest of the officials. However, he did not panic, but instead looked at Xing Feng with interest. When they first met in Dianan, Tang Zheng made Xing Feng eat a big loss. Even if he now established the dragon group, Tang Zheng did not have the slightest fear. Xing Feng walked over to Tang Zheng and stood in front of him. He jokingly said, "Tang Zheng, we meet again. Yes, this world is really small. It is very small. Let me ask you, how many life-continuing pills do you have?" Xing Feng arrogantly asked. He did not believe that Tang Zheng would take out all the life-continuing pills to auction. No comment. Tang Zheng said coldly, "You disrupted my auction. Does that mean you want to buy my life-continuing pill? I'm here to tell you that from this moment on, your life-continuing pill no longer belongs to you." Xing Feng said in a resounding voice. Not only did Tang Zheng frown when he heard this, but even Yan Luyun and the other 2 young masters' faces sank. They really did not expect Xing Feng's attitude to be so bad. This was an open robbery of the life-continuing pill. Tang Zheng was not an ordinary person. Was it so easy to rob? Yan Luyun said in his heart that things were bad. He was afraid that this matter would become big. Song Yu and Yi Ke looked at each other and their eyes lit up. If the dragon group and Tang Zheng were to fight, then they would be very happy to see this result. "I don't understand the meaning of your words. I'll have to trouble you to explain," Tang Zheng said calmly. "Hee, since you already know the answer, then I will tell you clearly that the life-continuing pill has been confiscated by the country and no longer belongs to you," Xing Feng said coldly. Tang Zheng had seen a lot, but he had never seen such a shameless person. This was clearly the behavior of a robber, but he was still so unscrupulous. "What if I don't give it to you?" Tang Zheng suppressed his anger and asked. Xing Feng murderously said, "This is not up to you." After that, he looked at Tang Zheng with ridicule. Originally, in Dianan, he suffered a loss and lost face, so he hated Tang Zheng. Now that he had the powerful dragon group, his self-confidence was bursting. He did not put Tang Zheng in his eyes at all. He also took this opportunity to teach the other party a lesson. If Tang Zheng was not being kind, he did not mind resorting to force, with interest, to get back the last time. Tang Zheng's eyes slowly stood up, and his eyes became firm. He said sonorously, "The life-continuing pill used to be mine. Now, in the future, it will belong to me. Anyone who wants to take the life-continuing pill for themselves without my consent is a robber. I have never been polite to robbers." After that, he gave a signal to the king of medicine. The king of medicine knew the importance of the life-continuing pill, so he immediately walked towards the rostrum, wanting to take back the remaining 6 life-continuing pills. Xing Feng's eyes turned cold as he ordered, "Stop him! Snatch the life-continuing pill." The order was like a mountain. Some people immediately attacked the king of medicine, while others directly grabbed the boxes on the rostrum. Out of the way! The king of medicine was also a martial artist, so he immediately received the attack. But the other party was not weaker than him. After a few moves, the king of medicine was actually at a disadvantage, and was surrounded by danger. Seeing this, Yan Luyun cried out, "Stop, this is senior king of medicine. You are not allowed to be powerless against senior." The members of the dragon group did not care about the king of medicine, and continued to use their killing moves. Yan Luyun knew that he could no longer sit by and watch. Like a gust of wind, he rushed over and forced the members of the dragon group back, saving the king of medicine. Seeing this, Xing Feng angrily shouted, "What are you guys doing? You can't even deal with these few people?" The members of the dragon group attacked as a group, and the scene immediately fell into chaos. "Take back the life-continuing pill." Tang Jing gave the order to Huang Xiang, who was standing to the side. So, a black shadow flashed, and a gloomy gust of wind swept across, and several members of the dragon group were directly swept to the ground. The black shadow flashed again, and Huang Xiang once again stood beside Tang Jing. It was as if he did not move at all, and his movements were like a ghost. Tang Jing took the boxes and kept them in his sumuru pouch. Xing Feng watched as the life-continuing pill disappeared into Tang Jing's palm, and flew into a rage. "Tang Jing, are you trying to go against the dragon group?" Tang Jing was as cold as ice as he said, "Going against bandits is one of life's greatest joys." Chapter 483. Both sides were on the verge of breaking out into a war. Kai Guibin and Tang Jing were old acquaintances, and he was the second in command of the dragon group. Of course, he didn't want to see the dragon group and Tang Jing go to war, so he quickly said, "Tang Jing, don't be impatient. The life-continuing pill is a miraculous medicine, and if it enters the market it will have a negative impact. Moreover, you have given the life-continuing pill to the country, so the country will not forget you." Tang Jing gave a fake smile and said, "I won't forget. Hehe, your words are really nice. Let me tell you guys, other people are using real gold and silver to exchange for the life-continuing pill and are not taking it by force. If you want the life-continuing pills, then compete fairly. I won't have any complaints. Right now, the life-continuing pills are being auctioned for 1 billion each. As long as you can take out 6 billion, then these 6 life-continuing pills will be yours." Kai Guibin resentfully said, "Tang Jing, you can't just look at money. There are some things that money can't measure." Tang Jing didn't appreciate it at all. "Right now I only care about money. If you want to talk to me about unrealistic selfless contributions, then I advise you to give up on that idea." Xing Feng angrily shouted, "Why are you still talking so much nonsense with him? Since he is so stubborn, then don't waste your breath on him. This life-continuing pill will not only not prolong your life but will also hasten your death." Seeing that they were about to make a move, the king angrily shouted, "Stop! Do you know that this is a crime? Is there still any law?" "Let me tell you, the dragon group is the law." Xing Feng disdainfully said, "I will report your problem to the higher-ups. Be careful or you won't be able to bear the consequences. Do as you wish." Xing Feng didn't care at all. The king of medicine was so angry that his face and neck turned red. He had some friendship with the officials, and these officials often invited him to recuperate. Over time he had some feelings for them. "Fine, then you wait." The king of medicine clenched his teeth and said, "If you want to complain, then go ahead. Now it's time for us to make a move." Xing Feng gave a look to his left and right. Immediately, several of his men surrounded Tang Jing and Huang Xiang. Song Yu and Yi Ku also did not mean to leave. Instead, they stood aside and watched this scene with great interest. Yan Luyun looked anxious and advised, "Wait a moment. Let's talk nicely. Why do we need to make such a big fuss? Young Master Yan, it's best not to get involved in some things. Otherwise, you'll get yourself into trouble and the losses will outweigh the gains. Xing Feng did not give him any face at all. Yan Liuyun's eyes flashed with anger. He took a deep breath and said, "The life-continuing pill originally belonged to Tang Zheng. You want to take it for yourself with just a few words? How can there be such logic in this world? I have such a theory here." Yan Luyun was speechless. This was really a scholar encountering a soldier. The key was that the other party did not intend to reason with them. They were determined to take it by force. Tang Zheng cupped his hands toward Yan Luyun and said, "Young Master Yan, I appreciate your kindness. I'll take it later. I'll trouble you to protect the King of Medicine. Since they are bullying people like this, there is nothing to talk about." "I don't want to talk to you." "Do it." Xing Feng ordered, and 10 of his men moved together. One by one, huge fists went straight to Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng did not move, but Huang Ziang had already moved like a ghost. The ghost head blade directly slashed at several people. A man's arm was directly cut off. Blood flowed out and he staggered to the ground. Xing Feng shouted with a sullen face, "Evolve!" Roar! One by one his men roared. The blood vessels in their bodies were about to explode. Their bones were also crackling. In an instant, they had all grown 30 centimeters taller. Their bodies had also become exceptionally strong and sturdy. The hair on their bodies had also become a lot more exuberant. Seeing this, everyone could not help but gasp. It was the first time they had seen this kind of thing. They were very surprised. But one thing was for sure. After these people evolved, the aura they emitted was completely different. Their fighting strength had obviously increased by more than one level. These people are all martial artists, but they are all in the Hotian realm. But the aura they emit is completely different from that of a Hotian realm martial artist. Tang Zheng could not accurately judge the opponent's strength, but he did not dare to lower his guard. This dragon group indeed had some skills. No wonder they were so arrogant. The key was that this kind of evolution was different from the cultivation of martial artists and cultivators. It had already exceeded the scope of both. How did they do it? Tang Zheng could not understand. Bush, 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 bush. When these fists struck Huang Ziang's ghost head blade, Huang Ziang actually retreated a few steps, and the other party's fists followed like a shadow, attacking in front of him. Tang Zheng stomped on the ground, roared, and punched out with both of his fists, like an angry dragon emerging from the sea. The two of them each took a punch and flew backwards, while the other party's fist also arrived in front of Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng did not dodge, but instead straightened his body, and before the other party's strength reached its peak, he collided with the other party's fist. The effects of the primal chaos Vajra spell erupted, and Tang Zheng was like a steel bar with iron bones. He forcefully took a few punches, but he was completely fine, and his fist once again swung out like lightning. 2 more people were hit and fell to the ground. Tang Zheng's attacks were very fast and accurate. As long as he took a punch, he would immediately lose his fighting strength. Huang Ziang also joined the battle. The two of them worked together, and their fighting strength was off the charts. Not long later, more than 10 members of the dragon group fell to the ground one after another. Xing Feng watched this scene with his mouth agape. He couldn't help but feel a little regretful. He had come in such a hurry today that he didn't even bring his equipment. He only brought a few subordinates. Originally, he thought that with the fighting strength of his 10 or so subordinates, even if they couldn't kill Tang Zheng, they could at least teach him a lesson. After all, these subordinates were not ordinary people, but super warriors that had been modified by genetic drugs. The super warrior was an important project that the military had been researching for a long time, but there had been no progress all these years. It was only when the werewolves appeared in the martial arts assembly that the military brought back the werewolves' corpses for research that the super warrior project finally made progress. They extracted a type of genetic medicine from the werewolves' bodies. This genetic medicine could strengthen a person's body and greatly increase their fighting strength. Later on, the military captured a few demonic beasts from southern Yunnan, which allowed the research to progress even faster. In the end, the genetic medicine was perfected and reached the stage of clinical application. However, there was a flaw in these genetic medicines, and that was that the target of the genetic medicines had to be a strong person. Otherwise, they would not be able to withstand the side effects of the genetic modification and would directly die on the spot. Currently, the super warriors of the Dragon Group were all elites in the military. They were outstanding in all aspects, which was why they were able to survive. Tang Zheng looked at Xing Feng with a murderous look and said, "You want to snatch my life-continuing pill with just these people? You're too naive." Xing Feng's mouth and tongue were dry as he said, "Don't be complacent. Do you think the Dragon Group only has this much ability? You're thinking too simply of the Dragon Group." "Then I'll give it a try." No matter who the other party was, Tang Zheng would not let go of anyone who interfered in broad daylight to snatch his life-continuing pill. Thus, Tang Zheng's feet slipped as he stretched out his hand and grabbed Xing Feng's neck. Xing Feng's eyes were sharp and his hands were fast. He took out a small handgun from his bosom and pulled the trigger. Tang Zheng hurriedly dodged as the bullet was about to fly past his face. Suddenly, bang! The bullet exploded beside his ear as an electric light flashed. An electric net shot out from the bullet and covered Tang Zheng's head. Tang Zheng was caught off guard as his head was immediately covered by the electric net. The electric current flowed through his body and a burnt smell floated up from Tang Zheng's body. Tang Zheng roared as he circulated his qi to resist the powerful electric current. He grabbed the electric net and threw it to the side. Only then did he feel relieved. But he was completely enraged. Raising his head, Xing Feng's figure had actually disappeared. This fellow did not have the extravagant hope that this bullet would be able to get rid of Tang Zheng. Instead, he took this opportunity to escape. Tang Zheng wanted to chase after him, but Kai Guibin stopped him and advised, "Tang Zheng, wait a moment. There's no need to chase after him. Since he has escaped, then he definitely won't let you catch up." Tang Zheng coldly snorted and said, "Captain Kai, don't you feel embarrassed walking together with such a shameless person?" During the military training, Tang Zheng's impression of Kai Guibin was not bad, so he did not make a move against him. Kai Guibin resentfully said, "This is an order from above. As a soldier, I can only carry it out. I have no other choice." Although Kai Guibin did not agree with many of Xing Feng's actions, but he was after all the adjutant and Xing Feng was the leader. Kai Guibin could not influence Xing Feng's decisions. If you hang around with this kind of person, sooner or later you will get yourself into big trouble. Tang Zheng warned. "Tang Zheng, you are the one who has provoked a huge trouble. Kai Guibin is narrow-minded and will definitely seek revenge for the smallest grievance. You have repeatedly opposed him, so he will definitely not let you off." Kai Guibin said sincerely, "Just bring it on. I will take it one by one." Tang Zheng did not care. "Don't be careless. The Dragon Group is not an ordinary organization. There are many things that you cannot imagine. The life-continuing pill is indeed a miraculous medicine, but it is also a talisman that will hasten your death. You should understand the principle of treasuring a jade ring becomes a crime. That's all I have to say. Take care of yourself." Kai Guibin finished speaking and left with the injured. This auction ended without any results, but many people witnessed a turn of events that was even more exciting than the previous auction. It was truly worth the trip. Now that the troublemaker had left, the people who had left the door rushed back like a tide. They stared at Tang Zheng with complicated expressions. Just now, everyone wanted to bid for the life-continuing pill, but now that they saw the principle of treasuring a jade ring becomes a crime, many people flinched. Without a certain level of strength, ordinary people would not dare to touch this kind of godly medicine. But the three great clans were not ordinary people. Although the Dragon Group was not an ordinary organization, they could not resist their enthusiasm for the life-continuing pill. The three young masters all surrounded him. "You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.